Welcome to the last in-person meeting of the year before the holidays. Today we've got a pretty busy schedule. We have two speakers today. One I know a lot of you are very familiar with is Chris Hanlon, president and owner of Aquatic Biologist at Lake Management Science. Sorry, I can't remember. It's early in the morning. He's going to be talking on several different types of water treatment, binding phosphorus-P in your lake or pond, and nutrient inactivation, as well as aeration and circulation. In addition, we have Tony Suprum from Lake Parsippany. He's going to be working with Chris, and they're both going to be discussing fish stocking and fish surveys, which was something that was brought to my attention by several members at the last meeting. They said, could we have something about fish stocking? So we looked into that and we were able to do that. We're also going to be having the annual election today. I'm sure Eileen spoke with many of you as you were coming in with that. And I think that's pretty much everything. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to Chris, and obviously he will guide you through for asking questions and things like that. So enjoy the presentation, and thank you for coming.
All right, there you go. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
For those who don't know me, my name is Christopher Hanlon. I'm the president of Lake Management Sciences. I've been in the industry over 30 years doing management on various lakes and ponds all through New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York. Can everybody see this slide from where you guys are all? Okay, it's bright enough or dark enough? All right. So today we're just going to do an overview of nutrient inactivation and binding some phosphorus in your water bodies. Okay, so first question is, why do we need to address it? What is nutrient loading and what is nutrient inactivation? Okay. For those who don't know, nutrient loading is the phosphorus and nitrogen. When we talk about lake systems, is the loading of our waters with phosphorus and nitrogen. These type of pollutants, if they get high enough, will create water qualities that are decreased. So we affect not only aquatic life and lake systems, but we also can affect other ecosystems that are based around our lake systems. We also have an impact on human life. We degrade water quality. Okay, we also drinking water standards are lowered. This is not only for those who have residential lake systems, but also that of reservoirs. We do a lot of work in reservoirs in terms of drinking water supplies. We're also obviously recreational. A lot of us are dealing with that, wanting to use our water bodies for that period of time for swimming, fishing, sailing, whatever it may be. So these nutrients, clearly, they create an imbalance, okay, and they alter the balance of all these micro and multiple aquatic ecosystems, and they ultimately degrade the water quality. And those of us who have seen, we've been speaking about halves recently in the last 5 to 10 years, very publicly, on a political spectrum, as well as a biological spectrum, as well as in-house in our lake systems, because it's come to a situation where we have really bad situations throughout not only New Jersey, but throughout the nation and internationally. Okay. So when in these water qualities, when we develop, let me ask you real quick: how many people are here from POAs, from lake associations? Okay. Anybody from condo associations or anything like that? Or reservoirs? All right. Okay. So I'll just kind of focus in on there. What we see is, so in our lake systems, okay, as we develop our watershed or develop our landscape, okay, and some of us have development for the last 100 years on these systems. Those of you who have seen our chocolate milk come into our lakes, okay, through construction, through new subdivisions, through road systems, through poor soil management. As these waters cascade into the lake systems, they're bringing nutrients and sediment. Okay, with this nutrient sediment, we clearly are carrying that phosphorus load into the lake. This increases, and as we increase our phosphorus load, phosphorus and nitrogen are the limiting nutrients for plant growth. Without one of them, okay, you'll basically stop plant growth. So with phosphorus, okay, phosphorus in freshwater systems is the main driving force for plant growth, which means macro plants like milfoil, curly pondweed, any of those plants that are rooted or macro or large in size. Also, they increase our algal populations, our green algae, which are beneficial, but also our cyanobacteria, which is not a true algae, but we call it a blue-green algae or harmful algal blooms. They all fall under that category of a blue-green algae bloom or cyanobacteria. The driving force for these blooms or these plants is phosphorus. Nitrogen also plays a role in it, but we're able to mitigate phosphorus more readily than we can with nitrogen. So that's why we speak of phosphorus being the main driving force on when we do nutrient inactivation. So when we have these large amounts of phosphorus loading into the system, obviously these are the type of things that we start to see, and you, I'm sure, have seen these increase in your lakes. Hopefully those who have not, I don't know too many people who have not, but we're seeing, your increase in your trophic state or your productivity. So eutrophication is highly productive. Okay, it's a bad word. It's also a good word. A wetland is highly eutrophic and highly productive. That is one of the most beneficial waterways we have. So when we live on a lake, we don't want our lake to turn into a wetland, obviously, but that is the life cycle of every lake. Every lake wants to fill in eventually and become a wetland. How that process occurs over time. Either in New Jersey, we culturally accelerate that development and all these functions that eventually bring in sediment over the lake into the lake systems. Everybody will have that complaint. My cove is filling up with organics, or I got muck, things like that. So this occurs over sometimes 5 years. That's why I asked about condo associations. Condos or homeowner associations have detention or retention ponds, and they are made to catch poor water quality. But everybody thinks they're this natural, system that nothing is wrong with the system, but its main idea is to catch poor water quality. And we've used lakes now in the last 100 years as just giant retention basins. That's all they are. All your stormwater pretty much runs down into your lake. There's very few that don't, but the majority of your watershed goes down into your lake system. So you're no different than a condominium association or that corporate pond that you see at, in Parsippany or Bedminster or wherever you may be. If you're up in some lake system, all your stormwater goes into the lake. So we see this increase in algal blooms. We're seeing increases in HABs or cyanotoxins or cyanobacteria, which has an ability to release when the cell breaks a toxin. Everybody kind of have familiar with that so far? Okay, so we have decreased oxygen levels. You create dead zones in the system when we have decreased oxygen, which leads to fish kills and obviously smell and odor and increased plant growth. All right, this is from EPA, Clean Water Act. It is required by states to present EPA of lakes that are impaired or water systems that are impaired. There are relatively over 48,000 impaired lakes in our nation. Okay, when we look at New Jersey, that's New Jersey's impaired waters. Mainly it looks like river systems, honestly. But when you look at the nation, this is not just a New Jersey crisis. This is not I shouldn't say crisis, but a problem. And it is a crisis at times. And if you look at this is some of the data here. They speak about one of the criteria that they use for lake systems, okay, is phosphorus loading. Total phosphorus in is part of the nutrient data that they use. So this just shows you that we are not alone. This graph right here, or presentation, just shows you this, so you can kind of understand where your influence is coming from. Ag runoff is coming from residential, like we spoke, all your stormwater drains, industrial runoff. We do a lot of work in Bergen County, Essex County, Hudson County. I mean, they've paid paradise already back then. Probably a lot of you guys grew up down there and have come up this way. But it's a different spectrum. You look at the Hackensack River, the Passaic River, they're filled in. So this is what's happened over the last 200 years in New Jersey. You live on your lakes 100 years, majority of you. So you get rain events that bring down these nutrients. Think of your lake. Literally, I try to tell my clients, it's literally like a giant pot of water. And at one side you're pouring water in, and then the other side it's leaving. Okay. So depending on how much water is coming in is your flushing rate and leaving the system. But as you add that water into your lake system or into your pot, if you have highly nutrient-rich waters, laden with sediment and all that, that cascades into that pot, settles out, stays there. It doesn't have the ability to get out of the system. So we have a loading system, what we call an external load of phosphorus coming into the system, getting in there, binding themselves with all the sediment on the bottom, also suspended in the column, or in the bottom of the pot to the top of the pot. And as the water leaves, it's discharging. So we're losing some of the phosphorus, but the majority of it is staying internally. So we have an external load and an internal load that we need to think about when we're talking about nutrient inactivation. So this is New Jersey's response in the last basically 7 years, 7 years. We have Aloe Blooms that are occurring. They've created a watch system, so you guys are familiar with, I think, with this. They'll come in, they'll do cell counts. In the first spectrum, when they first brought it across, a lot of people from Lake Apacan got really hurt. A lot of lake associations got hurt with this program. They were using numbers that were not even on World Health or national levels, but they have increased, they've changed their dynamics on how they monitor it. But we're now running into situations where these harmful aloe blooms, or cyanotoxin, or cyanobacteria, which creates cyanotoxins, which is the main concern, which is a health risk, okay, to be concerned about. These are some of the criteria that we are running into under posting water bodies when the threshold is met. So let's talk about our nutrient inactivation. So we got a little history of where it comes in and what's happening here. So 1 pound of algae, okay, is about the size of a softball. All right. 1 pound of phosphorus can support 500 pounds of algae. That's a lot. Okay. 1 goose can produce roughly 8 pounds of phosphorus per year. We kind of put that in the equation.
Wow.
Okay, that's just the goose. That's not you fertilizing, like everybody fertilizing, and landscapers going yes, and septic tanks. But so 1 pound of algae, that's pretty significant. So as you know, has everybody experienced an Aloe Bloom? It's not necessarily blue-green, but green or blue-green, right? Driven by nutrients. We can control it with herbicides and algicides, but the main function now, and we've changed technologies in the last 15 years really, where we're trying to address the source of our problem. Okay, and our hands have been tied, but the technologies now are changing, and that's why we're speaking about them today. So obviously we all want to be able to have that situation. This is just a technical term of what is a nutrient inactivation. Okay, it's the use of chemical precipitants to bind free reactive phosphorus, into an insoluble form that's unavailable to algae. Basically, let me grab that phosphorus, stick to it, and not let the plant grab onto it. Okay. We've been doing inactivation in lake systems well before I even started. They've been doing probably the past 100 years. Okay, really, our industry with the lake management industry on a commercial stand started with the Clean Water Act in the 70s, and in the 80s it increased. So we're really trying to bind our SRP, or soluble reactive phosphorus, or our free phosphorus that's available to the plants. This is just a general overview. This is typically the type of nutrient inactivation options we have. We talk about, and this is from the oldest technologies to the newest technologies. So we have alum, iron, and calcium. Okay, calcium carbonate, ferrous sulfate, and alum, aluminum sulfate. This group right here. kind of are grouped together. They've been around a long time. Alum is used, and this technology is really developed in the wastewater and drinking water industries. Okay? All of us who drink water out of city waters, okay, it is cleaned typically with alum. And the first thing they do is they get that dirty lake water in or river water in, and they hit it with alum, and alum will strip that water of any charged particles. Remember that, any charged particles. So dirt, phosphorus, nutrients, things that are charged, it will stick to it. So we have the alum. Then we step into a polyaluminum chloride, which is used a lot into lake systems, as well as it's used really pretty aggressively in Europe. Okay, it's used in the States. We're going to go through each one of these and discuss them real quick. So as the technology advanced, it's a polymer, so it's polyaluminum chloride. Then we've just in the States, in basically the last 10 years, we've run into a product called Phoslock. Okay, Phoslock is a product that's based on a mining of lanthanum. Okay, we'll discuss that too. A great product, totally different than the alum. Okay, I'm going to use alum as our general generic term for those other guys, but for using alum in TAC. Okay, and now we have a new family of products that have come out, which is to me a game changer. Okay, to the way we're gonna manage nutrients. Okay, so we'll talk about that, and that's called the Utrisorb. Okay, Utrisorb is a family of products, and we'll go through different formulations. So think about okay, I got these nutrients coming into the lake, which is step one. Okay, sediment, positively charged particles, but we're mainly focused on phosphorus. Step two is we apply our product, whatever it may be, alum, PAC, Phoslock. It binds. Okay, it's going to stick. It's going to has an attraction for the targeted plants. Targeted nutrients or everything, the charged particles, which alum does. And then it settles out on the bottom. Okay, and we strip the water of our targeted nutrients. Okay, and it's bound down there. Okay, some of them are bound there for just a couple years. Others are bound there for longer. Others are permanently bound. Okay. Before we go into deciding what product we may use, alum or PAC or anything like that, the first thing we do is we've got to get data, find out what are we looking at. So before you do treatments, okay, and if you look at that top picture, that is what we call jar testing. So the jar testing, but if you look inside this, can you see the particulates in there? Okay, that's called a flock. Okay. And what we'll do is, we'll go right quickly. So obviously we need to know temperature is important. Really pH, turbidity, and alkalinity are our main driving factors that we're looking at. When we do a jar test, okay, we're going to take our lake water sample. We're going to put it, this is in a lab, put it in our beaker, spin it around and keep adding the product. Okay? And this is mainly done with alum. And we'll put it in, okay, until eventually it snaps, and all of a sudden it creates a flock. Okay? And at that moment it creates a flock, you're going to be able to adjust and figure out the dosage rate where you're creating that flock. Okay? And again, it's based on, I don't want to get too technical, but there's a lot of pH chemistry in there and alkalinity chemistries that have to play a role. Okay? So once you create that flock, you're like, okay, now I'm going to be able to bind. I'm binding. It's working right now. Okay? So we also want to get our phosphorus levels in our lake, okay? Our free reactive phosphorus, as orthophosphorus it's also called. And we also, total phosphorus is important, but really the free reactive is what we're really trying to address, because that is what the plants are going to grab and use. Okay? They can't grab phosphorus that's bound in the sediment, that's locked into a compound that's sitting in the sediment, until that sediment, until it oxidizes and releases and flicks off phosphorus from the bottom of the lake, and now it's available to the plants. Okay, and this is what happens midsummer, when you get a little bit of turnover rate and you get an anoxic bottom and you start to get the release of the phosphorus. It literally flecks off phosphorus on the bottom of the lake and will allow your algal blooms to, find this food source and go, oh, here we go, let's start growing. Okay, and then as you move into other products, okay, we're going to determine, now we just really need to determine how much phosphorus is in the water column, because that's what we're trying to bind. We're trying to bind the phosphorus, okay? And one thing to understand also is important as we move forward. Water movement and agitation increases productivity and efficacy of alum, okay? So that's an important thing to understand. Because, if you go to any wastewater treatment plant, they're applying alum and they're always agitating it. They're always moving it through the system, okay? Without agitation, the product works, but you're losing a large concentration or a large percentage of that alum from really actually doing its job, okay? Without agitation. But it will do its job, but you're just putting in product that, from an efficacy standpoint, really should be having some better agitation. So, we're going to go through each one of these. So, alum, how's it work? You need a lot of alum. It's just remember, a high volume product. You need a lot of it on the per acre rate, okay? Typically, you're between 75, maybe 50 to 150. So on average, 125, roughly, in terms of gallons per acre. Again, it could go much, much higher than that, and it can go lower than that based on your alkalinity and your preliminary numbers. So it's rapid action. All these products work very quickly. They bind immediately to the target. Alum is pH dependent. Okay, so understanding your pH, when you put alum in a system, it wants to drop the pH. Okay, it wants to tank your pH. So if you don't have enough what we call alkalinity or buffing capacity, okay, which will help stop that tanking. If you put alum in the wrong system, you can drop your pH from 6. Alum works best between the pH range of basically low 6 to 7, mid 7s, right in that range. If it drops down there, it's not working. If it goes above that, it's not working. So if it drops it, number one, it's not working. Number two, now we're not just talking wastewater treatment plants, we're talking a living organism, your lake, your fisheries, your invertebrates, your zooplankton. All these critters are cruising around, and they're cruising around at 7. All of a sudden they hit alum at 4. And they're like, whoa, and the whoa turns into, and all of a sudden things go bad. Yes?
When you put the alum in, how do you adjust for the depth of the lake? Like our lake is 35 feet deep in the center. So I imagine most lakes aren't like a uniform depth.
Correct. So you're gonna calculate dosage rate based on obviously your average, number one. You start there, and then we're gonna know, like say you're in 35 feet. Okay, we're gonna take samples through the column down on the bottom and understand where you're at. If you have, there's many different characteristics you look at. If you have an aeration system in place that you can turn the water over, then we're going to know that the product's going to be able to rotate through that system. If it doesn't, it most likely will stay up on thermocline, above that thermocline. 35 feet is pretty deep, so you probably have a pretty good thermocline. Most lakes don't run into that in New Jersey, but you do. So you're gonna calculate, okay, for the volume of that beaker is 1 ounce, say. I'm putting 1 ounce to create that. Just multiply that by the volume in that 35 feet, and you're going to have to put it towards that. It's a little more. That's pretty simple. It's a little more complex than that, but you're going to calculate for your volume. Yeah. Okay. So that's how you're doing it. Volume. 35 feet, and then we go up to 5 feet, and then we go up to 3 feet. You're going to dose that area differently than you would as you move out. Okay. So that pH is really important to know. Okay, so everybody can't just use straight alum. You put alum in there, and if you don't have enough alkalinity, you'll drop that pH, and you're going to have a lot of problems with fish. You're going to have a problem with the product not working, putting it in and thinking it's doing something. So those who don't have enough alkalinity, those who live in like South Jersey and Wausau's here, like typical lakes that have low pH, okay, like a 6. They generally have low alkalinity. That's just a general statement. Okay. So as you put it in there, if you find your apple you don't have enough buffering capacity, you're going to now have to apply alum, which is already buffered, which it has an additional product put into it when it's sent to you, or you're going to have to pre-treat with a buffering agent like lime to bring up that buffering capacity. You're bringing up basically bringing up the carbonate in the system, so the pH doesn't drop when you put it in there. So it's now you've complicated the application. I shouldn't say complicated, but you've not only increased your budget, because now you're doing double treatments, but now you also have to put it in, add a buffering capacity in with your alum, either at one time or a whole nother treatment. So as you go, when you put alum in, remember it attracts to anything charged, okay? All right, so it's picking up dirt, it's picking up sediment, it's picking up the nutrients, and it's picking up our phosphorus. It's a great product. It's been around a long time, but it's missing the mark on what we're trying to do as managers in lake. If I owned a wastewater treatment plant, I don't care, I want to strip it. If I own Hackensack Water and I want to give you clean water, I'm taking all the sediment out. In the lake industry, we're worried about phosphorus. This is the only tool we had for years. Okay, so you can grab, it's stripping the water clear, okay, but you're really wasting a lot of product to grab on these unwanted particulates. So to me, I apply a lot of alum. It works well, but one of the things that always triggers me is like I'm putting it in and I'm getting phosphorus, but I'm also getting everything else by using, and I got to use a lot of volume of product. And that is a true statement. Even on small water bodies, you have to bring in tractor trailer loads, like full 4,000, 5,000 gallons at a pop to do alum treatments. Okay. So over time, the other thing it does is it creates a flock. So what determines how the flock mitigates, either stays floating or sinks, is a characteristic of the lake. It's a whim. More agitation will get that to settle more, but in a lake system, you really don't have a ton of agitation besides wind action. So you could have that flock stay for a week, for 1 hour. It could drop right out, or it could stay floating on the surface throughout the lake system. And that flock is, when it's on the surface, we're all human, it looks like snot. It's not a pretty looking sight. It binds up and it goes through the whole column. So now it's binding with everything. If it doesn't bind with something, it's going to lay down on the bottom. It's still active. It's going to bind with something, okay? And hopefully it's going to bind with phosphorus that passes by or is released on the bottom. You can also do, like back in the 80s and 70s, you did a lot of blanket treatments, laying of alum across the bottom of the lake. It's not a true blanket, it's microscopic, but it's a heavier dose along the bottom, so it will capture some of the nutrients that are released off the bottom. Again, large volume. And one of the critical things is it's really only good for about 2 years. Okay? Plus or minus again. But its bond will hold that phosphorus for 2 years, and then later on it's going to release it, and the bond becomes too weak. And in an anoxic environment, it can release itself. So you're losing the efficacy. Okay? Then we move to technology, the PAC, which is a polymer, again, used really effectively. It reduces your volume of product roughly in half when you compare it to alum. Okay? So when you use an alum, if I got 10 gallons, I'm only going to need 5 gallons of PAC roughly. Okay? Has no effect on the pH, none whatsoever. So I'm a fish swimming through, it's applied, I'm okay, I'm safe. Alkalinity is not an issue. You don't have to worry about the alkalinity. Okay? It's another product that binds with anything charged, so it's grabbing things non-target. Okay? It's going to bind with phosphorus. But the one nice thing about PAC is it also creates a very, very tight flock. Okay? And it tends not to stay suspended for a long period of time in your water column. So that suspension and that tighter flock has an ability to drop out through the column more quickly, okay, or go down to the bottom. And any PAC that's not not used yet and it's laying on the bottom has an ability to, again, capture the phosphorus or charged particle, whichever may be released, okay? Again, agitation works well, makes pack work much better, okay? So they're kind of almost in the same family as, pack and alum, okay? And these are pretty been long-term uses in the lake industry, okay, as well as in wastewater treatment. So as we move forward, 10 years ago, they've been using this product in Australia for a lot longer than that, for decades. And, this is a Phoslock, okay? It's a product that works. They're all binding products, so the images are going to be roughly the same. You have free phosphorus sitting in the column. You put a product in, Phoslock, and it binds with it, okay? The difference, exponentially difference, in different family than the other two that we spoke about, is Phoslock addresses phosphorus. It's not binding with sediment. It's not binding with all these random other particulates. So you're not losing the product that you're putting in, okay, and having a non-target grab. You're going after phosphorus. Again, it works very quickly. It's safe for fish. Okay, their pH is not affected. Alkalinity is not an issue. Okay, it binds with phosphorus. It seeks out phosphorus relatively. Okay, there's limited coagulation. Okay, when you use this product, you got to make it into a slurry. Okay, it looks like really thin paint. If you took a can of paint, really thick paint, and then thinned it out into water. So that's how you get it out. You get it out into this slurry, and it's clay-based. Okay, it's an active ingredient is the lanthanum. Okay, it's a mineral that's mined, and they bind it with a clay-based particulate to hold it to the little pellets. And then you mix it up in a tank, or you lay it out on broadcast as a pellet itself. It's fine to do it either way. And then if you do it in a slurry, that clay particulate, that's where you're going to get that kind of that coagulation of like a wet paint, or wet beige paint that you're applying. Okay. Again, it's a product that you need a lot of to use. So as we go down, alum you use an extensive amount. Pack you're using half the amount of alum. Now you go into a granular product that we now have to mix into liquid or apply in a granular form, but you need to have a lot of it. And this is a typical like large lake application. Okay, you need access points, you need equipment to move this, and you need the right equipment to get this product. One of the really awesome things about Phoslock that changed it for the industry, not only is it binding with phosphorus, but it's binding it permanently. So we're not losing that release after 2+ years or 3 years, whatever it may be. It's laying on the bottom. If it hasn't reacted yet, it's going to continue to react until all that lanthanum has grabbed phosphorus. Okay, so even in anox, it's working. Applying it, okay. You apply it on a barge system, okay. I mean, these are full totes of just granular product on this job site, okay. This is typically that we've applied it on. You can actually see it coming out of the back of the airboat. You mix it into a slurry and it comes out, and you're applying it. And here is just a shoreline spray that you can actually apply it with. So, again, a good product to bind your phosphorus. Okay? And as technology increases, it's typically a better process for us. Okay, we answer cell phones now like this. We used to dial like this. I don't know if it's better now. It's constantly. But as we move along in technologies, in most cases, it's beneficial. Yes.
I'm with Brian by the lake. If we were to use something like this, would that decrease the need for the amount of phosphorus that we put through our injection system?
The amount of alum.
Right.
Right. Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
And what's the cost of this versus just the truckload of alum?
You would have to base it on your. It's probably more expensive.
Right.
Okay. But it may equal out. okay, with the amount of alum you're using. Because you're doing the diffuser system where you're constantly trickling it in and
Right.
putting into the system.
Right.
You could put that into a slurry and send it out into your diffusers, okay? You're binding phosphorus only, okay?
Oh, so this could be applied through this.
They've done it, yeah, they've done it through systems in there. You just gotta
Let's cut
change
down on the labor.
it. You gotta have something mixing it, and it's a little more complicated than that, but I've seen diffuser systems where they've tried to put this in. You'd have to change your system all around. You can't just, like your diffuser heads have to change, but they've tried to put this product out in diffuser systems. It's mainly put out just like as you've seen, either large volume bulk, through airboats, or through shoreline. But there's technologies that's going to change alum, okay? And I'll talk about it.
Okay.
This has limitations. It's clay based. It's hard to get that. Even if you wanted to get it through a pump system, you're worried about the coagulation or the clay sticking to everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you're using this, you could maybe abandon your alum system and do this as a full lake application multiple times over the season, where you may work out that you're cheaper than purchasing alum on a rate. I probably not, because you get more labor.
Mm-hmm.
But again, there's the next technology has changed the way we're going to look at all this.
Okay.
You have questions?
Yeah, what's the availability of Phoslock? I thought that there was an issue with that.
So, Phoslock is, I'll give you the whole quick story. So, of I don't know everything. So Phoslock, again, been around for decades. It's based out of Australia. Okay, they've been mining it. They had and the company that brought it into the States, Suprum, they're the manufacturers of this next product I'm going to talk about. They were the sole supplier. So when you see, does that say Suprum? It says Suprum up there. So now Suprum label right up here. Okay, it won't be there anymore. There's still stockpile. So to get to the short of it, they ran into accounting issues as a corporation, and they were dealing a lot with China. And basically, a corporate major mistake came over the system, came over the corporation. Okay, for the last basically 2 years. CPRO stepped out of their partnership with them. Okay, said no, you guys like crazy accounting stuff. So now they apparently have a new CEO. They have a new cleaned house. They got rid of all the board. Everybody's gone. I mean, their main supplier was China. Apparently, two major contracts. So the answer, from what I hear, is it's limited. It's still out there. But CPRO is not standing behind it. They have a surplus of product that they're using, but Phoslock is now, as I understand it, I know the relationship with CPRO is gone. So if they're going to find another vendor or another somebody to present it in States, I spoke with the sales rep directly from Australia at a conference out in Midwest this past winter. They're pushing hard to try to keep that relationship and keep things going. Yes.
Are these methods used for small lakes
Yes,
and the affordability?
absolutely. No, becomes more affordable for a small lake. Okay, it does. Okay, and that's so small lake. This is a little rudimentary. It'd be better application, but that's small pond. So 1 acre to 40 acres. That's what I'm considering small. You get to 100 acres and you're going to start increasing coverage and volume. I mean, there's lakes that are 100 acres. It's based on volume, okay? And it's also based on how much phosphorus you have, okay? So if you have a small lake and you're loaded with phosphorus, okay, you may have to go to a rate of, again, let's say 10, okay? If you have that same water body and you have a low amount of phosphorus, you're going to go in at a rate of 3, 4. Okay? So you're a multiple of, it's all based on how much phosphorus you have, okay? Of how much product you're going to require.
Hi, Chris. I'm
Yes.
Christine from Lake Stockholm.
Hi.
Thank you for this.
Yeah.
What's the best time of
the season or year to get our total phosphorus level and to get treatment?
Multiple times through the whole season. There is no one time. So you want a snapshot of your spring, midsummer, fall would be at a minimal best. Okay. The more monitoring numbers you have, but typically in the springtime you're getting an influx with stormwater. You're going to gather your data. Midsummer things slow down. You're getting data in the lake as well as you're going to start getting data on the bottom of the lake to see the phosphorus release if you have it, which most likely you do. And then in the fall you'll get those rains again. So you're going to get an average. But when you apply this, you're going to apply it at the rate at that time. So again, if your phosphorus levels are just say 5, okay, we're going to calculate to take out that rate. Okay. So as you move forward, did that answer somebody else? Yeah.
On the spray system, is that dependent on the width of your lake? I mean, do you need a fairly narrow lake for that to work?
No, you're just gonna lay it entire, over the path of the lake. Doesn't matter if it's a mile wide or 100 yards wide. You're just, as an applicator, you're gonna be laying it out to make coverage. So this is the newest technology. Okay, this is Utrazorb, and it's really a family of proprietary. Okay, it's proprietary formulation. Okay, they created this product over the last 5 years, actually longer than that. Okay, this is made by the company Suprum, who actually brought Phoslock in to the country. Okay, they've now created products for nutrient inactivation. Okay, you're seeing 4 of them up there because there's 4 formulations. Okay, that are going to be of this active. Okay. Currently 2 are available to us, and we'll go through that. Okay. So Utrazorb, it can stop phosphorus before it enters the lake. Okay. So they have a technology where they have these socks that you lay on your inflow streams. Okay. Where small lake owners, okay, can lay it in a stream bed and capture that phosphorus as it's entering the water system. Even Lake Parsippany, small systems is 125 acres. Lake Mohawk, 800 acres. We're looking at putting it at some of the storm drains. They also have catch basins that have a whole lot bigger than most other people have the ability to do. But it's there's an availability for that on small scale and also larger scale. It's safe for the fisheries and invertebrates. It has no pH effect, no alkalinity issues, so you're not worried about anything in terms of water chemistry, changing the activity of the product. Okay. So the bag on the left up top is called G. That's going to be available. It's not available right now. That is 2 times as powerful as Phoslock. Okay. It has 2 times the binding. Okay. Ability as Phoslock. So it's going to be, when you use Phoslock, you need to use a lot of it. Okay. If we can cut that in half, it's going to be everything. When we reduce our product of how much active, or not active, but how much product we're placing in these water systems, it's just generally better for the environment. We don't have to put so much product into the system. Yes?
Just a quick question. What happens if the socks break open and the stuff goes into the system?
A non-issue.
Okay.
Yeah. I've asked that question too, and they brought that up. It's a non-issue. You're going to be binding in the system. You're going to have that.
But it's just going to remain there in the bottom of the lake, and it
Yep.
doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter. No, there's no toxicity issues. And when you see the socks, the chances of them breaking are pretty rare unless somebody takes a razor knife and cuts them
So we
open.
put them in the stream, and when you get big storms,
Oh, you have them in place?
Well, Biochar. We use Biochar socks.
Totally different. Totally different, but yes, they broke open, right?
A couple of them did.
Yeah, I've had them break open too. This is a different sock. Okay. It's got great efficacy. It is targeting phosphorus only, just like lanthanum, just like Phoslock. It only wants to grab the phosphorus. Okay, if it hasn't touched any phosphorus, it will stay active for its entire life trying to grab phosphorus. Okay, and it's long lasting, and the bond is just like Phoslock. It will bind the phosphorus permanently. even on the bottom in an anaerobic environment. So when you look at like choices that you could use, so they have a sock, okay, that, biochar, but it literally about the size of my leg. It's thick, it's about 3 feet long, it's packed with the product. You lay it in the stream bed, and you usually lay multiple of them, and as the water cascades through there, it is capturing the phosphorus, okay, like actively, okay. So you're stopping your source, number one, your internal load that we talked about, the big pot of water coming in. If you can stop that first, you're not going to capture it all. But if we can capture the majority of it during standard rain, not a major rain event, we're doing well. Okay. Then we have this internal load where we have this phosphorus sitting in the system. Okay. They've created this product is 2 times the rate, like we said, of Phoslock. Okay. The G, it's going to be made to lay down on the bottom of the lake system, okay, as well as go through the water column, okay. This product, WC, anybody from Hanlon Lakes here? How did it work for you? I know you guys use it.
I wasn't aware that we used that.
Oh.
I know we're using a lot of stuff, but
Okay.
our lakes are certainly better this year than they were the year before.
Okay. So this product over here is designed WC water column, okay. This is designed to put into the water, and it will. You don't have to apply it evenly through the whole system. Okay, you don't have to lay it out like paint it on. Obviously, to get it evenly distributed is a good thing, but if you miss it or you just throw it off the shoreline on small ponds or 1 acre ponds, the product moves through the water column. It stays suspended and works by grabbing the phosphorus. Okay. And then they have what they call sediment inactivation they're coming out with, where this product will lay down and basically coat the sediment and start binding with the nutrients that are being released, the phosphorus, I should say. So again, this technology is growing. It's new, okay? I've seen it work. I've used it in small ponds. I've used the WC, and I've seen a significant decrease in my phosphorus level. Okay, we're talking about using it in other water bodies. Okay, and this goes to your question about introducing it into pump systems. And to me, okay, and the way the technology works, this product, this WC, is going to you can use it as a drip system. Okay, and the amount of product you use is exponentially less. I can't even make a comparison. I'm going to show you some images, and you can kind of get. You're going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to show you exactly.
So, one quick question on what you put in the stream to catch it. How do you know what the life expectancy of that is?
Very good question. So what they do is they don't have a test. They actually don't have a tool that they sell with the product. Okay, so what you would do is take a phosphorus test upstream, okay, and then a phosphorus test below your socks. Okay, and it's rudimentary. You can get. I use it, and I've done it where I have. It's almost like you get it on the eBay, Amazon. $80, $100 test. It's a standard phosphorus. They call them. It's a little. Take a sample, break open the packet, shake it until it turns blue, and then you're going to it'll read your phosphorus readings in there. And I've gotten readings where it's almost I can't see the blue on the opposite side of the sock. So it's impressive. I mean, I've been doing this a long time. There's a few products that have been out there that I'm like, wow, this is a game changer. Okay. So that's what I should have started with that. So you can kind of see what they're doing here. Okay, they have this. They capture the water by staging these socks in there, almost like a biochar. Biochar works on carbon, basically carbon filtration. This is working on. I don't know what it works on, to be honest with you. It's proprietary, but they are saying that the uptake it can pull up to 75 pounds. Of phosphorus. Okay, that's a technical number. So, I don't think you rely on any one of these technologies as your sole approach. Okay, they need to be integrated in terms of nutrient inactivation. So when you go into stripping the water column, this is what I've used, and it's pretty impressive. Okay, so you're up, here are your mesotrophic, eutrophic, and hypereutrophic scenarios. We're all kind of falling in this range down here. There's some people that are, I don't think anybody's hypertrophic here. But this is your free reactive and your total phosphorus. Okay, so really looking at the free reactive. This is over. If you can't read it, this is basically a 10-day. Well, it's more almost a 12-day, 14-day period. Okay, they're up at close to 300 micrograms, and it drops it all the way down to below 50. Okay. In reality, okay, that's a chart given from the manufacturer. But in reality, that number, I've seen that number drop in a pond, and I was like, I've seen it presented to me, and then I've used it, and I've seen the number drop, and I was like, wow, this is really awesome. Yes.
I got a question for you. On any of these products, when they're spraying the road with any sort of calcium carbonate or other product, does that react with anything to increase the blooms, or does that suppress the blooms, or does that have any effect?
Well, the salts
Yeah.
are a different spectrum with the nutrients. The aloe will bind with some of the salt particulates. PAC will bind with it. These are not binding with those salts.
So in essence, you're limiting the amount of alum binder that is available for, let's say, a bloom if you are salting the road.
Oh yeah. Or you have a lot of dirt in your water, and you put alum in. That alum's addressing the dirt as well, and addressing the salts.
Yeah, because we have a situation now where one of the lakes in town actually came to an agreement with the town to remove all the sediment, and that was, they came to an agreement, it was, put into a contract, et cetera, but they never did that with our lake. And as they've changed product on the road from sand to the calcium products, now our desilting costs are up to like $250,000 every few years.
Yeah.
So we're going after the town.
Road salts in the winter definitely are changing the chemistries of the lake systems. So yeah, absolutely. In terms of nutrient inactivation, we're addressing the phosphorus right now, which is limits we're trying to stop our algal blooms.
Right.
And we're trying to limit them as best as possible.
The alum is the big thing, because like you said, you probably use the most of the alum, and if it's binding with the road salt, then you effectively need a lot more of that.
Yeah, I mean, it'll probably bind. I mean, those salts are laying in the lake system. I'm sure they're being released during the summertime. But that alum, if you're using alum in the system, it's not selective really. If it's got affinity to the alum, the aluminum sulfate's gonna go and it's gonna grab it. Okay, but again, from our conversation, okay, that has to do with like wastewater treatment and things like that. In our conversation on lake management, we're using these products to address basically the phosphorus. Okay, sure.
So the manager texted that it worked well, much better than the Phoslock.
What's that again?
On my lakes, the manager's texted that it worked well, much better than the Phoslock.
Okay, he just said, the question was before, how did Biochar work for you guys? He says it worked better than alum, correct?
He said much better than Phoslock.
Okay, excuse me, much better than Phoslock. Okay. Yeah, you guys were using Phoslock, not alum in there,
Well,
right?
we use them all, but we have one problem like it.
Okay, so the bottom line is they're saying it's working better than Phoslock. Okay, again, it's a question of having the ability to fit your budget. Some lakes you just can't afford to use it, or you want to use it. So this technology again is changed because you don't have to use the volume, you don't have to use the significant amount of product, and it's targeted. It's literally surgically. I mean, that's the way I'm looking at this. This is just addressing what we're talking about here. Okay, this is it's the similar to the Phoslock, the granular form. Okay, half as much product, 2 times the locking efficiency. One bag does twice the work. It's no brainer. Yes.
Yeah, I know, that's what we just think. Do you know the cost of the sock?
I think they're about a bag. Let me look it up before I open my mouth.
Okay.
Because I just looked up
This is a
Biochar
live
now.
stream,
I
too.
just looked up Biochar now. It's going for about $17 a bag. Is this
Oh, it's more expensive than that. I know that for a fact. But I've seen them both. This definitely works better than Biochar. Yes.
Can you put the stocks against storm drains, like catch basin?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. If you so the idea, that's a cascading creek coming down. So you lay it in your basin, and if you can you're not using one sock. You're gonna use multiple socks. If you're 10 feet wide, you're gonna have to buy. You're gonna have to get more of them. If your depth of water is deeper, you're gonna have to lay your socks higher. Okay. Then this is a formulation that's going to be coming out. They haven't said exactly soon. Okay. This is now the same technology to be laid down on the bottom of the pond as a sediment. Okay. For old schoolers, your blanket, your Allen blanket type of mentality. This is the to me, in terms of environmentally sound and moving forward in technologies, where this is WC, this is available to us, this is what Hanlon Lakes has used, I have used. Okay, 1 case, so a case is 5 gallons. Okay, that's 2.5 gallon jugs. 1 case is going to equal 8 bags of Phoslock, excuse me. Okay, or close to 500 pounds of product. Okay. Applying it, as an applicator, 5 pounds in your lake system, 5 gallons, excuse me, is a whole lot more effective than putting 8 bags into slurry or putting it out and having those pellets go through the water column and missing your area of target. As you move forward, if I got a whole pallet, 2,300 pounds of Phoslock, you're using 5 cases of this WC. And again, you don't have to worry, it moves through the column. Is everybody familiar with sonar? Okay, Fluoridone. When it first came out, everybody's freaking out. Oh my gosh, so expensive, it's worse, it's so hard to use. That product works so well because it's water soluble and it travels through the system. And it doesn't work for everybody, and it doesn't work for every system, and it doesn't work for every plant. But when it does work, its focus is on addressing its target. And it's able to move through the system by placing, you don't have to touch every single plant because it will equalize through the system and address the targeted plant. Where this product is working in a similar fashion. So applying it, okay, and again, as you move up to the big lakes where people are like, okay, I need a tanker load. I need to treat, my phosphorus levels are exponential on the eutrophic level, and I have to use pallet after pallet, tractor trailer loads of material coming in. The cost of moving it, getting it there, and trying to get this product out, that's weeks. Who's Culver's Lake here? Anybody from Culver's Lake? Culver's Lake, I know they do alum treatments out there. It's a major staging event. It's days upon days event to do basically 100 acres of 500 acres. So it's extensive. So when you're dropping this down, 1 pallet is honestly, an applicator business can lay that out in a day. Okay, so you're saving money and time, as not only as the applicator, but that's always transferred over to the client. Like you're not having me on a job for 5 days or a week. It's a no-brainer.
What are we looking at when you had that you just showed picture? Was that a liquid or a granular?
This is liquid. That's each one of these is that WC. Is a liquid form.
So that's liquid and that's granular on the right.
That's Phoslock on the right. Okay, it's making a comparison to using equaling. They're trying to say, okay, with one case, I'm gonna be able to do 8 bags of product. Okay.
So Chris, I'm thinking about the industrial lake upstream of White Meadow Lake, owned by Tilcon.
Yep.
It has a lot of algae that goes downstream into our lake. You know, they put a boom up and we put logs. I'm not so sure what product we put in the stream, but I'm trying to motivate them to treat the algae in their lake. So is this the most economical way for Tilcon to treat their lake?
Okay, this does not treat algae.
Uh,
This treats nutrients.
Right, but
So nutrient, if we can limit our nutrient value,
the internal loading.
the internal loading, okay, or external with the socks, and you know, if you can address your phosphorus, okay, you're going to limit the growth of algae growth. Okay, this is not going to eliminate your. You hope that you would eliminate the use of algicides and not have algae blooms anymore. I don't think you will, realistically. You're still going to have blooms, but the intensity of the blooms or the type of bloom, okay, will be reduced. Okay, you may have to just do it once a season instead of 10 times a season.
Right. So maybe I framed the question incorrect. I'm trying to motivate Tilcon to deal with their internal loading so that they don't have an algae bloom coming downstream to us.
100% yes, this would be effective, especially up there.
And they probably only have to do it once a season.
No, they probably have to do a few times a season, again, based on whatever numbers they come back with the data, but yeah, and it'll be a whole lot more advantageous for them because doing an alum treatment's short-lived. If you have a rain event and comes in and you got to now think you're going to bring in a tractor trailer load and a whole skid steers and just to move the equipment, move the product to the lake.
Right.
If you know, if somebody says, okay, now I can go up there in the day and do it and get the same results, it's absolutely is.
Right.
Well, for Charlie's question, to put these socks in the stream would also prevent the loading from coming into White Meadow
Correct.
Lake.
Yep.
So, I mean, it might be easier for us to get them to pay for those socks for us to maintain the stream than to get them to treat their lake.
Absolutely, they should. You know, if you can get them to do both, but the sock isn't going to hold. The sock is going to capture what's coming down that stream. If it's really loaded, you may have to do it once a month. They're saying 6 to 8 weeks on the life of the sock, but again, if it's really rich, you're going to use it up more quickly. Okay. I mean, 2 pallets to this is, again, this goes back to the alum. This is more familiar to people. Okay, 180 gallons of this product will equal a tanker load of alum. That's 1 pallet. Yes.
How interchangeable is this to go through a aeration system?
Not a problem. You don't have to change the heads. You don't have to change your pump system. Well, let me say, make sure that you had the right pumps. I think you guys have the right pump system. I've already spoken to them about it. Yeah, there is. It's just the handling alone. Like if you guys, White Meadow has in-house pump systems. Things are going down and lines are going out. You're still gonna have to do it, but if you're sending out 180 gallons, or compared to that tanker.
And we're wasting money on fuel surcharges on tanks.
You are waiting. It is like nowadays things are so off the charts, but yeah, it is. This is what I mean. It is a game changer. And okay, great. We're saving money and we're using less. We're going to be using less product. It is really important. But we're addressing the phosphorus. Like that's my ultimate goal. Let's get that phosphorus down. I don't worry about the other suspended particulates in there.
Where do you get this product? Is it something you can go someplace and pick up yourself, or is it something?
No, this is restricted use through applicators.
Okay, so the applicator have to supply.
Yeah.
So I got a question that's kind of specific to White Meadow Lake, where we have those tanker trucks pull up several times during the summer, right? So, and we have those big tanks, holding tanks, and the alum comes out like a slurry, so we always dilute it with water as it's going out. Would this product have to be diluted with water going through the system? Oh, no more dilution? Because this is not a thick slurry. Because that's another problem, is the slurry of alum clogs the lines, and at the end of the season, you go through this ritual.
Your heads and pump it. Yeah, and alum is aggressive to lines, and yeah,
And
that's
so how do we buy this thing? You just dump it into the tanks?
Well, you get a I don't know how much product you use. We're going to calculate the use. It's not going to be alum quantities. It's going to be whatever that equalizes to you. You may be just putting a tote there for the whole season.
So how would it be delivered to the truck also? Into the big tanks that we have? You know, I forget the size of the tanks. The tanks are as big.
Yeah, you got like 500 gallon tanks there.
Yeah.
1,000.
Yeah, we got like 6 of those tanks.
Yeah. You may be just using one now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you won't be loading up the whole system around the whole lake. You'll just be putting it in, and it stays in the column. It works longer. It's not immediate and then disappears out of the system. So it will be working in the system. Like it worked in that graph they're showing over 2 weeks. That's a 2-week period. So that initial drop isn't a straight line. It's over a period of time, okay? And then you'll monitor your phosphorus level and see where you're at, okay? And then if you're getting a lot of inflow coming in or a lot of release off the bottom, you may have to increase your concentration next time or increase your frequency of treatment. Or, hopefully in the future, we'll be able to lay down, if it's an internal load where it's coming off the bottom, we can capture that on the bottom. So the technology is growing. Every answer is not there, but using the volume of product, okay, it's. I know you guys go through tanker loads of it.
Yeah.
Mohawk goes through tanker loads of it.
We see the tanker trucks as much as a gas.
So, and again, alum through a diffuser head works. The influence of the area, I've had multiple different numbers told to me over the years, but in the diffuser head as it comes out, what is your area of influence, you think? Sabina, do you know?
Well, it goes up depending on the depth of where I'm releasing.
Right.
So,
But will it mitigate a quarter mile or will it mitigate a couple hundred yards away?
a couple hundred.
Right, so it's moving around that diffuser head, and then if there's a space between diffuser heads, you're not getting action in there of nutrient inactivation, where these products will move through the system and still capture the nutrients throughout your column.
Yeah, the concern is really more so the drip rate. I mean, because we do in moss with the alum, obviously.
Yep.
So, because we're running miles of this stuff. And so that's the question is probably we're going to have to dilute to still utilize the same equipment and not go through too much product.
Correct. You may have to do a topical application.
Yeah.
Not to say abandon your system at all,
No.
or turn your system on once a week, not every day,
Right.
or
Yeah.
just turn it on for half a day
Mhm.
and let it purge the system. Get it in there. Again, these are the things that technology is going to learn. Right now, it's applied in drip systems, okay, but it's also mainly applied through an application because the volume of 180 gallons, I can put that on this. Just say if it's not going to be like Mohawk. Well, it could be, or it could be any lake. But one tanker load, that's taking me 2-3 days. I'm doing this in a day, so you're getting the product and it's there out there. But that kind of makes an equation, yes.
Will that be affected by the temperature? In other words, can you slow run that throughout the year or no? Is it?
We stop in September.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because you're saying it essentially is not breaking down.
Correct.
And it's in the water and it'll bind, but it'll flow to the bottom, it'll be less effective, right?
No, it'll be, it's as effective, it's always effective up top and then on the bottom. If there's phosphorus on the bottom,
Yeah.
it's going to bind with it. Okay, it's going to
So it could
bind.
be applied the entire.
It could be applied because you're dealing with phosphorus. Now that's going to be a question of the state. Are they going to allow us to do this and that type of management strategy for nutrients? But the answer is
It may
possibly.
lessen the bloom when it gets warm.
The whole idea is to lessen the bloom. I don't care if we're using alum, pack, Phoslock, this new Utrisorb technology. That is the goal, is to bind those nutrients and stop them from growing.
Chris, I'm sorry
Yeah.
to get back to this, but I'm confused as to the conversation between you and Sabine about the drip rate.
Yep.
In contrast to the drip rate of alum. If this product is less of a slurry than alum, I don't understand how to, what's the implication in terms of the drip rate that you're using?
Well, if you're constantly sending out a pulse of, say, alum in it,
Right.
you're gonna blow right through that, those
Oh, so
180
basic-
gallons too fast.
Right.
Okay, and if you have to make the travel distance, okay, of, these guys are traveling, hundreds and hundreds of yards. So you got 100 yards worth of tubing in your system.
Right.
I mean, my first thought is, okay, I got to put 5 gallons in. I lost 5 gallons in the first 100 feet. I'm not even out to the diffuser yet. I got 5 gallons just in the hose.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I mean, those are the technical questions and the technical aspects that will be addressed in that system, okay, of how to get it out there and not lose the product while it's sitting in there, in your holding tank, I'm saying. Okay, you follow?
No.
Because you're using an eyedropper instead of using a spout bucket, and you got to get that eyedropper, that little bit of material out into your lake.
Right.
It's hard to get that eyedropper out there.
Right, but so it's gonna go out quicker because it doesn't need to be
The
diluted.
viscosity is, it'll move, right, it's moving.
So you can slow the drip rate down without worrying about the slurry clogging your lines. Like I feel like we have to have a decent drip rate
Right.
for alum because it's a slurry and it could clog
Well, that's
lines.
you're constantly throwing it.
Yeah.
This will be probably more intermittent than,
Or you'd
you know,
skip
that
days,
system.
in other words.
Yeah, because you'd go through 180 gallons and by the time you had breakfast, like I'm sure you guys go through, you're probably like, a truck's coming again? Truck's coming again? So, so those are the tech, we may have to reconfigure your system, move a diffuser head in a couple of locations,
Right.
and just have 2 diffuser heads go out, because again, this product moves. It moves. It doesn't take a lot to treat a bigger area, so it moves through the system. Yes.
So what's the permitting for this? Is it different?
That is what they're figuring out in New Jersey right now. So. But right now it's nutrient inactivation. I know. Right now they're figuring it out, and right now it's nutrient inactivation, so it kind of falls under the guidelines of the nutrient inactivation.
You mean we'll know by the time we all retire
Yeah.
outside of New Jersey?
So again, this product is just a good one. I just see it as a game changer. I'm sorry, guys. I'm with you.
Does your company evaluate and facilitate all of this?
Say that one more time.
Does your company evaluate and facilitate all of this?
My company, yes, yes, yeah. And this, so we work in conjunction with, applying these products, we do, okay? You'll also have the manufacturer, who's probably one of the only manufacturers in the industry that is embedded in helping people. Okay, a lot of these other products that we use they're how do I want to say it? They're owned by giant ag companies. They're just big corporations. Okay, they have come up with, CPRO has come up with the most recent products that we use in our industry. They're most proactive in terms of getting us and you, me, the applicator, and the manager, to give a tool to you guys to say, hey, this works. Okay, I did a job on a totally another product for the state of Pennsylvania on 1,000 acres of milfoil. And when I tell you, that's Lake Mohawk plus, okay? 100% full of milfoil. Front to back, like there was no open space. And their product, Parsippany, just targeted that milfoil and took it out. Not in one treatment, we did multiple treatments, but it's a game changer. Like Pennsylvania Fish and Game was like, wow, all the natives are still there. Everything came back, and for 3 years they haven't seen a milfoil plant in there.
Then what's the name of the chemical from milfoil?
Parsippany.
Spell it.
I opened up a can of worms.
Yes, you did.
P-R-O,
Yeah.
P-R-O-C-E-L-L-A-C-O-R.
Right. Right, sorry about that then.
She'll be. But yeah, it's like, but again, has its limitations. It will not address curly pond, things like that. No, don't do that. If you're smart enough as an applicator, you're going to be able to address that. But yeah, So,
Get your photo, Charlie, no more questions.
yeah, no more questions, Charlie.
Yeah, phone a friend.
So,
I heard that.
I have another update. The lake that we used in had been closed for 2 years for swimming, and it was open almost the whole summer this
You
year.
guys hear that?
That's-
So they use that WC. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It has runoff and other problems, but it was able to be open for most of the summer. It had been closed
That's impressive.
completely for 2 years.
So they use that WC in the lake that historically has been closed during the summertime. And this is the first year they've been able to have that lake open for all summer. I don't know if, now, I'm sure, I'm assuming that they probably did some algicide treatments in there as well, but maybe not.
They used, I think they used some Phoslock or Aloe too.
Okay.
This was the main one that we went to switching over.
Okay.
To this. It does have runoff problems and other issues, but the phosphorus and the algae was obviously way down.
Way down. Well, that's, again, this is brand new stuff. So that analogy is one of the most local ones. I have analogies on small ponds, okay? We haven't used it in a large scale yet. We're looking at using it in maybe a 20-acre lake and see how it works out. I don't know how big that water body is, but smallest, yeah.
Most of our lakes, it's no coves, it's kind of relative.
Everybody likes to dip their toe in and just feel it first and not, go all in. And understandably.
A basic question,
Yeah.
because we're kind of new to this. Our lake has not had to have any of these kinds of treatments in the past. How do we go about getting our phosphate levels? Do we go to different drainage areas that are coming into the lake, different in-streams? Do we do the testing? Do we hire a company to do the testing?
Well, the answer is all the above. I mean, so the answer, yeah, you can hire a consulting firm that's come out and take samples consistently.
But we can do it ourselves.
But you can
as well.
definitely do it yourself, no doubt.
Can I?
And
where
then
do
bring
we
it.
We get these from Amazon.
That test is a field test. It's going to get you accurate. If you really want it accurate, you're going to take that sample and send it out to a lab and get that number
Like the
back.
one in Sparta.
I wouldn't recommend those guys to do it. They would do it, but their protocol is mainly drinking water.
Okay.
Okay. So get it to a lab. There's a couple labs out there that are designed for lake management.
And you can give us the
Oh
name
yeah,
of that.
yeah, yep.
And we would go to the different input areas and test them.
Yep, you test your inputs, you test the middle of the lake, you test on the bottom, you test on top. That could be one sampling date on Monday in the springtime, and then a month later do it every month, or you can do it once you see how much it costs for the lab analysis.
And now would be a good time.
It's not a bad time now, no, of course, no. Because now you're getting your end season, you're seeing what's going on, and you're going to grab your samples and, as you move forward, and you do one in the middle of winter before it ice out and see what's happening too.
How do you do these samples? You just take like a specimen cup and
That's it.
No, you need specific.
So, yeah, but you need, they'll give you the bottles, but it's pretty much plain and simple. Yeah, I'm sorry. So you'll get a lab.
The lab will give us the
Yep.
bottle.
And you'll hand them over to you, chain of custody. But it's as simple as taking the sample.
Dipping it down.
Yeah. If you have to grab on the bottom, the middle lake, it's a different tech, you'll have to get some different tools.
Tie a string to it.
No, you get it's called a Kemmer bottle or capture bottle where you send it down there and the tube floats right at the bottom and then it closes. And you bring your
Where do you get those?
science from the internet.
Fisher Scientific.
No, you'll get it from scientific lab.
Take a break.
Yeah.
The lab will do that?
They won't do
Will give
it.
us the
Oh, a consultant will do it, but yeah, and all the bottles the lab will do. Yes.
Thanks.
All right. So we finished nutrient inactivation. So we're going to take a break and then we'll go. If you have any questions, you can come talk.
We'll get back together about 10:40. I do want to thank Lake Mohawk again for doing such a great job with the There is coffee and juice on the side. If you refill your coffees, you can get your snacks, and we're going to get started again. Check. I can turn it off.
Just a little. Can you? I don't know if you can. All right, forget it. You need an IT guy.
Check. Is that better? Okay. I'm going to reintroduce Chris Hanlon. Not going to do all his titles in the company he works for because I screwed it up once. We're not going to try again. Still waiting on that. Chris is going to be talking about aeration and circulation, just a general overview on that. And I'm going to turn the mic back over to Chris. Thanks, sir.
All right, now we're gonna shift gears. You're gonna hear me again for another. Obviously, I don't have a problem talking about this, so. So Bill had asked to do 2 presentations. Nutrient inactivation, we could easily go right back into it and keep discussing it. It's pretty complex. All these technologies we use in lakes definitely can be spoken about one topic for multiple hours. But now we're going to move into just aeration. We had asked to go over aeration. It kind of, and I said to Bill, I said, look, let's use aeration because in terms of using alum and using some of PAC and some of these older technologies of nutrient activation, movement of water helps, get the product working better, getting the flock moving and things like that. It's not a settling tank like you have in a wastewater treatment plant, but moving water helps. As well as now with this new technology, unlike Phoslock or the Nutrisorb G where it's more granular, we're going to be talking about trying to move this product across the lake if it's getting caught. Sometimes you'll have coves that don't really interchange with the lake system, or you'll have windblown shorelines that are constantly just pressured by literally wind pressure. Not being able to integrate and move in the system. Or you have internal running. Some people are like, oh, my lake is flowing up, up towards the inflow. No, it's not. That's just the surface wind going that way. Underneath, everything is still going in that direction towards the outflow, typically. So we're just going to do a real quick kind of overview of what type of aerations there are. So most people speak about aeration. We talk about fountains, circulators, and aeration, diffused aeration, And the reason why you put these systems in place in either ponds or in lakes, you're always trying to get water movement, and you're trying to increase your dissolved oxygen level in your lake system. More oxygen increases aerobic activity, it increases chewing up of the organics on the bottom by the bacteria. Typically what happens on a lake system is the bottom becomes anoxic, or there's no oxygen down there, so your decomposition process slows or decreases or comes to zero. And then you also, with that situation, there's a chemical reaction where the phosphorus gets released. That's bound up in the sediment. It starts getting released off the bottom of the lake, and it really gets flecked up into the water column. And the algae that's sitting there waiting starts eating it, and all of a sudden your bloom starts occurring. And that's why a lot of times we see planktonic blooms. You really hardly see a planktonic bloom early in the season. It's usually when the lake is pretty much stagnant, waters have slowed down, and the temperatures have you got really warm water, warm temperatures up top, and then you might have a thermocline, and then you're not getting any interchange in oxygen on the bottom. So we're trying to move water and add oxygen Okay. The other is also from pest management. You start to get I get a lot of calls about people talking about mosquitoes. What can we do about that in like a cove area or what have you? Move that water. The other issue is with fecal coliform in beach areas that fail from geese. We've had a system in Lake Parsippany for years, probably 20 years, where the Lake Parsippany used to fail like clockwork. Okay. Not just they had bad Aloe Blooms back in the 90s and before that, but they used to fail constantly for fecal coliform issues. We incorporated circulators, and what you're basically doing is just drawing mid-lake water out in the open and pushing it, and you're flushing your beach area so that you can get this fecal coliform out of the swim area, so you can pass your swimming tests. Okay, not just fecal coliform, it's total. Yeah. Sorry. And then also improve fisheries. If we can have oxygen through the column, okay, we're gonna have a much better balanced system. So in this image, you're seeing a lake that basically becomes stagnant. This is a pond, obviously, but the idea is what we're trying to do is get movement, okay, through the system. Get the colder waters up, the warmer waters down, mixing. You get them mixing. Those are Culver's Lake. They mix. Yes.
This doesn't really do anything for a lake that has an inflow and an outflow, does it? Because basically you're getting churning through the water anyway.
The answer is no. Yeah, it does help. Okay. Even every lake pretty much has an inflow and outflow. Okay. Either it's groundwater or you have straight.
We're getting our feed from Swannanoa, and then our outflow is the Rockaway River.
Okay, so you're in Longwood. Oh no, where are you, Cozy? You're in Longwood. Okay. So that's like a river system. Okay, so that system in the spring, in the July, in June slows down. July and August, you stand at the dam at Lakewood, at Longwood, and there's no water going over.
Yeah,
it's dry. So that goes through. You're not having that in out. So getting circulation and moving it. You're a little different because you're almost a river system.
Yeah.
But like a typical pond is or lake, you want to start moving waters. Okay. And understanding how these systems work and where you can place them is the important part. And I always get people going, well, I put aerators in and it's going to stop the weeds. Just remember, aeration does nothing to weeds. Nothing. It will not stop aeration. The state of New Jersey incorporated aeration in Lake Apacon and the river Styx. Told the people it's going to kill weeds. If you ever go over river Styx in the mud hole, you got 70 acres of topped out milfoil until we come in and start treating it and give people relief. And they're trying to move water. It does nothing for vegetation, okay, for rooted vegetation. You can see these diffusers running. You know, these are my images, and it's because I said, I got to tell these people, me just saying something doesn't, you got to see it. It's, okay. This is a typical diffuser system, okay? These are diffuser heads, each pad, okay? And there's going to be a compressor in there that sends out basically compressed air. It runs out through weighted hoses, okay? The air comes out through this membrane. That is a rubber membrane that has tiny holes in it, okay? So as the compressed air runs out, it bubbles up through the water column, okay? And this is your compressor, okay? Usually you have something like this on the shoreline. Inside the box is a compressor. You got these going out. Each one of these legs are diffuser heads. So this unit has 6 of them sitting out in the lake somewhere, okay? That little mechanism, not that it will get technical, but these things need to breathe, so that you'll always have a fan on there, and everybody misses maintaining the fan. So you really have to maintain that or you'll burn out your units. So I like this image. This is what it really looks like. So that's the type of water movement you see coming through the column. Okay, so you're trying to move this column. So this comes up, it's pushing up the cold water through the warm water, and it's getting a cycling motion like this. Okay, the area of influence is relatively large. I mean, you'll get an influence of movement in about probably this large of an area or bigger if you got wind action on a bigger water body. But typically at pond action, you'll get movement in this zone, is this room. Okay, So that is the most basic that you see aeration systems put in all the time with diffuser heads. Okay, this is not surface movement. Okay, we're injecting oxygen into the system. You're turning over the water. The bubbles are fairly large bubbles. Okay, and the idea is just to get more oxygen and movement of that water and get some more oxygen down on the bottom and create that habitat for your fisheries and vertebrates and for the ecosystem. I brought, yes.
Quick question, solar aeration,
Yep.
good, bad, and different, what's your thoughts?
Good but limited. Good because you're not using electricity. Limited because the technology hasn't been able to give us larger horsepower. So it's good on small ponds. We have a couple of them that we use. They bubble. You have a maintenance issue with the batteries. Okay, we just worked on one the other day. It's solar. It's a big panel, so you have obviously aesthetic issues if you want to look at a solar panel. Number two, you got batteries in there, and there's 6. How many batteries do we have in there? 6 or 8?
I think it was 4.
No, definitely more than 4. Okay, so there's like car batteries, just to run a 2 diffuser head. So the box is as big as this, half of this table to run just the two diffuser heads. You're not using. I like them, but the technology is going to have to, increase and it's happening. Yes.
Is there a downside to aerating?
There is. Yep. So I was going to bring that up, so is there a downside? Absolutely, 100%. So with these diffuser heads, okay, I've had a lot of clients have diffuser heads. Take a look at this one. See how it's extended off the bottom? Okay. See how low this one is? Closer to the bottom? A lot of them, old school ones, okay, meaning like within the last 10 years, if you purchased one, most likely you have a block, just like the same exact block that you have in fish tanks. They're just these little blocks strapped to a piece of plastic. So when you lay it down, I just spoke with a woman, I forget who she was, but she said, well, yeah, all the way up to here. I said, well, yeah, I mean, what can we deal with that? But, okay. And theoretically, if you can get oxygen down there, you're going to chew up the bottom. A lot of people I call them Google U. Get your degree from Google U. So all of a sudden, like, wait a second, we're going to chew up the bottom. Like, well, theoretically. But what happens is, when you lay that diffuser head, there's a fluff layer on top of your muck. So that diffuser head starts to do this and starts to settle down in the top of your muck. And then the sediment starts to cascade over the top as that thing's settling in. You're literally throwing up your sediment. You're throwing up your phosphorus. You might as well just go out there and shake a bag of fertilizer out in the middle of your lake. Okay? So if you can keep those diffuser heads up and off the lake, okay, or a pond, you'll be able to not have that turning over of the lake, of the nutrients. Typically, it's okay to run the system in the springtime, but come like when you really want it, sometimes we've shut it down, like a cup saw. We had to shut it down late in the season because we were starting to bring up the phosphorus up into the column. So we shut it down for a little while, and the algae kind of settled back a little bit. But every lake is a little different. Every lake is like us. I mean, I stand next to you, I look different than you. I mean, people are always saying, well, it's right next door. It's literally 100 feet, 10 feet away. Totally different dynamics, honestly. Each one is totally different. So you do have to worry about nutrient release getting pushed up, okay? There's a pro and con to everything. So people look at this, they see the diffuser systems, and they're like, oh, what about nanobubbles? This is now a new technology in our industry. Okay? Has anybody heard about nanobubbles? Yeah? Okay, so really, really new. Not that new in the industrial environment, okay? But what it does is it creates these compressors, okay, generators, create tiny bubbles, okay, that are released into, before I leave here, so it's generated in here and sent out into these straight tubes, okay? And typically they're not a diffuser head, it's just literally like a 2-inch hose going out to the lake. This one's a floating one, okay? And it creates a nanobubble. So what nanobubbles do are, these two are standard bubbles that come out of your diffuser heads, okay? This microbubble, the nanobubbles, okay? Look how many more oxygen bubbles are created that hold in just that one bubble that comes up through the column. So what happens is, a lot of times you're running energy, you're sending bubbles up, and it goes through the column and just pops up at the top of the air. So all your oxygenation, gets released on the surface. It doesn't really, you're getting some of it circulating, but a lot of it gets released. Nanobubbles have almost zero buoyancy. So when you send them into the water column or into the middle of your pond, they don't go up to the top and pop. They'll float through the system, okay? And they bring oxygen into your lake system, okay? So that's the biggest criteria that helps the nanobubbles, okay? There's pros and cons to everything too, so watch this. So in these images, you can see it kind of go up. The microbubbles hit the surface like we just showed in the image before. The nanobubbles just do this, and they start floating around. Okay, and they're saying, they say they can float around for about 2 to 3 months. Okay, so this way you can actually sustain oxygen at your bottom water column. Okay, you can have it in there, but there's a major concern. Okay, again, this is technical. Right? These are technical comments I've made. Okay, that's how it's in real life. Things don't work out. Sometimes they happen. One of the concerns that we've had is the nanobubbles create this hydroxyl radical. So it's an oxidizing product. So they use it to clean industrial environments. Okay, clean metals. Okay, so it oxidizes. It has this really good ability to oxidize. Okay, which means basically sanitize. Okay, so the question is, what is it doing to the zooplankton and all these other critters that are floating in the water? I haven't read a paper or seen a presentation that addresses this. And if anybody has, I'd love to know. But
Yeah, there's one actually coming up at NOMS.
Okay.
And that was a topic, a pretty big topic.
Yep.
I haven't gone through the data, but it's definitely something to be looking out for.
Correct. Okay, good. So, and that was a concern. Ken Wagner, I saw a presentation probably about, well, it's pre-COVID, so probably 7 years ago, where they were really pushing this. And Ken Wagner is another consultant in the Northeast, and he and I were sitting together, and I said, well, what about all the little critters? You're absolutely right. This is it's literally like OxyClean is what it's doing, but it's staying in there. You're like, what's going on with those critters? And they go, man, they're just focused on algae. It's going to kill, if it's killing an algal cell, is it killing the good algal cell? Is it killing the zooplankton? What is happening? So, yes, it has this really good ability to kill the algal, okay, and add oxygen, but it also has these secondary effects that are kind of questionable. They're pretty expensive to get up and running, okay. This is actually a paper. If you look up Sarah Pond in Massachusetts, Ken actually he did all the consulting on it. They put a system in there, and it didn't deliver what they were trying to deliver. So in the end, it did send oxygen in there, but it didn't do what it was really supposed to do. So again, this technology is developing. We can rid ourselves of some of the secondary effects possibly that we're concerned about. That would be great. If you can sustain oxygen on a bottom, that would be great without hurting secondary things. And being able to sustain that oxygen. The levels that were proposed, this is a real life paper. So the levels that they were trying to get in there, the technical aspect or the paper aspect of design was we're going to put X amount in there. They didn't even come close to X amount. So where is that going and how does that work is to be told. This is again so that as we move forward, so we have these diffuser systems that are in the column. Now we're talking about diffuser systems that are sending oxygen and moving water on the surface. Fountains, okay? Again, idea is takes the water, throws it up into the air, aerates it, lands back down, and brings oxygen into the lake system, okay? Efficient, not as efficient as, compressed air and things like that, but it's moving the water. You're moving millions of gallons of water per day with a fountain, okay? So based on your size of your water body, you size it, if you're technically looking for moving water, okay, you need to size it to the size of the water body and the volume. A lot of times it's strictly an aesthetic value, okay? So when I design a system, I'm always talking to the client like, listen, I know you want a fountain, but you need to move. There's no reason to put a 1 horse in this 3-acre pond. It's going to look like a shower head. Not really what you want, and you're just wasting energy. But let's help the pond out. So designing it the right way is the way to do it. So you'll be able to add that oxygen in the system, move the water. It reduces algal growth, doesn't do anything to plants. Okay, it helps move oxygen through it, and a lot of times it'll help with stagnation in midsummer. Okay, you can put this in coves in large lakes. Erskine Lake uses circulators. Okay, anybody from Erskine here yet? No, so they got circulators in there. Cuffsaw's got circulators. Parsippany has circulators. White Meadow's got circulators. Been installing these things for years, and they work. So again, they're not just pretty. They do move water. That's actually in Denville, New Jersey. That image. So then we're going to talk about moving water. This is megalith. That's how you move water if you want to really move water without getting things going. So a 3 horsepower unit is moving 1.5 million gallons. It's a lot of water. Okay? There's roughly 360,000 gallons in an acre foot of water. So you're moving some good water with these. They move a lot of water. Okay, high volume, obviously. They're moving it so this one is is shooting it up and just boiling over a lot of water. This unit takes the motor and points it on the horizontal, parallel with the surface of the water. So it's basically taking like a fire hose. And once you move water, okay, it tends to continue to move. It does not want to really slow down. You start up a boat, hit it real quick, and you'll see your current go all the way out. Keeps going, keeps going. So once you move that, you're able to get some circulation going. Okay. Again, a lot of people use these. You'll get an influence. You'll have a unit sitting in this corner, and through the doors and past the doors, you're getting water movement. So easily past that distance. Yes.
I just want to share with everyone, White Meadow Lake upgraded their system, so I have one of those for sale, secondhand. So just reach out to me, and give it to you for a good price.
Which one?
That circulator up in the left-hand corner.
This guy.
Yeah.
This one is this one.
Right.
Okay,
so we
so
have a subsurface one.
Yep.
So I have one for sale, secondhand. I'll give it to you for a good price.
You come with the control panel?
For the site manager.
No.
Wow.
So you're stuck with the motor. But again, there's different dynamics. Like this one floats on the surface horizontally, and then they also have this same unit sits on the bottom. Okay, you don't want that because of that muck issue. It just keeps settling down, and you kick it on, and it's mud fest whenever you deal with it. So again, with these higher volume units, with an ornamental fountain, okay, just understand you're moving a ton of water, but to create that spray pattern, they change the head on it, and it becomes more like a shower head. And hardness in the water, if you guys have hard water at your house, or you have anything that clogs it, all of a sudden so by August, sometimes you might have like shooting crooked sideways and you got to go out. So there is a maintenance issue to it, okay? Once you get to these guys, there's a very limited maintenance issue because it's just a giant throat with an impeller that throws this water up. So high volume, really good oxygen exchange, less clogging, and it moves water. So most people go, okay, where can I use it? And again, that's in roped areas, in dock areas. I use them a lot in that situation. From a safety standpoint, obviously you're not putting it in the middle of the swim lane area because it's what we call an attractive nuisance. Okay, so you set it off to the side, you put it on timers, you let the unit run. I would definitely let it run in the morning before you have your beach test, so you can flush that water and get, or if the lifeguards get there and they take the broom, if you're lucky enough to have a lifeguard that actually will do something, sit on their phone, but actually, rake off the poops off the swim docks or in the beach area, you get that flushing, you get that out of there, and not only is it healthier for the lake, it's healthier for the swimmers, and you're getting interchange. You're clearing that water out, and you're able to now use your water body, and kids aren't drinking cruddy water, and you're failing. That is pretty much it on aeration. So this again, circulator mixers, we have fountains, and then we have our diffuser aeration system, which we spoke about the two, nano and standard. Yes.
The lake bed diffuser for aeration, ours is linked with the Aloe injection system. Does that offset the issue you were talking about when it pushes up the muck and releases the phosphorus? Having the Aloe with the aeration, does that offset the...
Not really. So I didn't want to...
You still keep it off the lake bed if you can?
Yeah, if you could, I would. Okay? Just so you're not dealing with that sediment issue of drawing in. Eventually they will settle and find their spot, okay? Those that have them know in the springtime when they turn them on, you see that over the winter they kind of cover themselves, and if you stood over a diffuser head, you'd see it bubble up, and you'd see the sediment kicking up. Again, there's microscopic release as well, so you may be sitting down there with your diffuser head on the sediment level, you may be getting that phosphorus and nitrogen, during mid-season, running itself, getting drawn up through the circulation pattern that you want to happen, but now you're releasing it and bringing it back up into the column. So again, pro and con to everything. Aeration is a very good thing to have. Just understand, every time you see this, look at this. This is an internet photo. This is right out of the catalog. It's always on sand. It's always from Florida. There's never muck. You put that and this thing settles right down, so they have these extensions. This is weighted. This feels like a dumbbell. So you want to get that off the bottom as kind of as best you can. You want oxygen down there, so it's kind of like, are you feeding yourself in that position? But no, you also just don't want to also be kicking that material up. And once once you get water movement, it tends to want to keep moving. So that's the beauty of aeration and diffuser systems. And it's all integrated. Understand, none of these technologies, nutrient inactivation, aeration, movement, nanobubbles, herbicides, we live and work in a complex situation, very, very complex. And it changes seasonally, it changes daily, and it changes over decades. And our technology is changing. So how we deal with it, what works for you may not work for another individual, or it may work for, diffusers. Cup saw works great until sometimes we turn it off in the middle of summer, towards the end of summer, just to kind of slow that bloom down, because we notice that it's kicking it up. Something's going on there. So, it's good to use it, but just understand it's not just turn the switch off and walk away. There's some technologies that you need to always keep an eye on. Yes?
So the nanobubbles aeration systems are clearly a significant investment, and one that we've talked about a lot. But I'm gathering today that there's still a lot of major concerns, and that perhaps technology hasn't caught up to the nanobubble systems. Is there one that you would recommend looking at, or is this something that you would wait a couple of years to see how the other zooplanktons and
right.
It sounds to me like the word is still out on those major systems, and that perhaps before you invest in something, where do you stand on that?
My professional opinion, right now in the lake industry,
Yes.
okay, it's brand new. It's new. It's okay. They use it in scrubbing factors in reservoirs.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
In reservoirs, in drinking water reservoirs, or in waste treatment plants, that technology is out there. Okay, they don't care about the zooplankton and the invertebrates.
Right,
Really, they're just clean water. Just give me, In our lake industry, in our backyards, we have all these other critters, or these other parameters that we do have to address. And I haven't seen the data or the actual application working as well. I've seen that one application in Massachusetts did not work as well at all like they thought it was going to work.
And how far along do you think we are in that technology, or you just don't know?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how long it is. I mean, the paper from NOMS, so NOMS is going to be the international conference that we have. There's a paper being presented on nanobubbles. Again, what does, that first paper that we sat with, 7 years ago, the first, immediately brought up questions like, wait a second, you're oxidizing it. How do we stop oxidizing even the positive things that we want? And they really don't have that answer yet. So, and it's an aggressive oxidizer. It shifts the pH too. So there's like, well, what happens to the pH? So a lot of, for me, there's questions. Yes.
If we have all the muck, and would the circulation mixer add a significant amount of oxygen to the bottom of the lake, or would it never get there?
It will add oxygen, but if you're trying to manage like deep sediment, there's really, there's bacterias that you can apply to chew up the bottom. Okay, you really want to try to get the oxygen like a diffuser down there and get it down there. Again, you may be adding oxygen down to the bottom. You just might have to shut it off for a couple weeks and wait a moment and then turn it back on. I mean, I had a client where they had a diffuser system set in there, and it was notorious. They turned it on in May, and the lake just turned pea soup. Early season, you're like, how is this like getting green like right now? And that's what was happening. They were just sitting in the system, a little body of water, 12-acre lake in Passaic County. We finally got them, we got to be patient on this and plan and get the system in there. So, and so the other comment that just brought up to me. So on these diffuser systems, when you're moving the product, okay, and that goes back to the alum question. So you want movement. The best way alum in these conventional nutrient inactivations work is the best is to have water movement. Okay? That water movement creates a better flock and better contact. So you're limited in where you are because it's coming out of the diffuser head and it's coming out with the bubbles, and that's the whole idea. You're getting that movement. Doing alum treatments without an aeration system is still okay. Okay, there's lakes here like Mohawk and White Meadow where they're pumping it in nonstop, but they're pumping it in like a very small rate, drip, 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 constantly. Where if we were going to do, like we work up a cup soil, we do some nutrient inactivation, we go across the body, moving that boat and getting that boat behind there so you can get that pack or alum or nutrient inactivation, whatever you can do, moving, that gets better contact time, and you're going to get a better result to get that kind of flushing through. So movement helps, and this helps consistently.
I just want to add that in White Meadow Lake, and I believe Lake Mohawk also, we have parallel systems where we're dripping the alum above the diffuser head of air bubbles.
Like that, and then letting it ride up. So the whole function is to use that column of air and get it to move. So, any other questions on aeration? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, our goal is to get oxygen to the sediment, right? So we don't get the phosphorus. How close to the sediment does that diffuse?
Correct. The idea is to get oxygen through the column and get water movement. But yeah, the other idea is to get that cold water to bring down some of that oxygen down there. How close? Again, how much muck do you have on the bottom? Like if that diffuser head is settling down into the muck, then I would be like, raise it up. I mean, there's not a criteria, not a number, there's not industry standard that says, hey, you want to be 6 inches above the muck, okay? Because everybody's material is a little bit different. wherever it's settling. You just want to be aware that when that diffuser is down there, it may be doing that constantly and settling in your silt layer before it hits enough hard material that it doesn't want to travel anymore, and then running. So Tom, there's not a definitive number.
Ours is in the muck, so it doesn't
Yeah,
matter anyway.
yeah. Again, most people's are in the muck. Just realize that sometimes that when they're in the muck, it has that potential to do that. Yes.
Our lake is long and narrow, very shallow at one end and deep at the other. How do you figure the optimum place for this kind of system?
You'll base it on the volume. So and the volume of the water, okay, and what you're trying to achieve. So the design will be on the size of your lake, and then on the volume in the depth from top to bottom, okay. So as you move down your lake system, okay, basically it's 2 to 3 diffuser heads typically, per acre. But that's not, as you move forward on bigger water bodies, that changes. Okay, so if you're in a pond, okay, 1 to 2 to 3 on a 1 acre pond is the way to go. If you move up into bigger lake systems, into a 20 acre lake, you're not having, that many diffuser heads out there. Okay, because you're getting more in the lake system just by being bigger. Does that kind of make sense? So it's a little bit more dynamic. Sabina can probably
offer a little bit of insight to that one too. So the deeper you go with these diffusers, the cone of influence is going to be greater, right? Because your air is going to be traveling horizontally with the greater depth. But also, from everything that I've read and then also from consultants, you really want to get your circulation in the deeper part, because that's where you're going to go anoxic in the midsummer, and that's when you're going to have phosphorus release in those anoxic conditions. So if you can avoid that anoxic condition in the deeper part of the lake, you'll be overall better. So if I'm looking at a system, I'm putting my aeration in deeper sections and not in the shallow sections.
you start in that deeper water. So basically, shallow water in the summertime is pretty much consistent all the way through.
Right.
6 to 8 feet. You'll feel that little coldness on your toes, but typically it's kind of average in that. Once you hit about 6 feet to 8 feet, then things start to change. You may get a nice thermocline in those deep waters, and that's what, like Sabina was saying, that you want to get that water movement and break that thermocline and get some oxygen down there so that you can move that. Anyone else? All righty.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Appreciate your time. And we will, we're going to follow with that might get from me.
Thank you, Chris.
I turned it off.
Thank you, Chris. Our next speaker is a good friend of mine from Lake Parsippany. He was the president of our fishing club for many, many years. Very active fisherman, although I call him eye candy because when he goes out fishing with his buddy outfishes him, but whatever. Tony's going to be talking about what's involved in doing fish stocking, and Chris is going to assist him a little bit with performing fish surveys and the benefits of that. So I'm going to turn over the mic to Tony Suprum from Lake Parsippany. You flipping it over?
You have the.
Will that work on that?
No, it's a separate system. So whatever you had on those slides, I have.
Okay.
You have Tony's.
Do you want me to turn this off?
No, you can leave that. I'll project something else, but I don't have Tony's presentation. All I have is 2 pictures. This and this. Okay. Okay. Do you have any slides or no? This is all I have. I'll look for it.
There. I'll give you a little sense of it.
Yeah, that's something.
That's something that
This one right here?
my face or my
Yeah, that's gonna be
when we get to the end of talking, kind of, we're going to show just what it looks like. Do you have this one?
I have nothing from it.
Okay.
And so there's like this electrified fish fence there that is just designed to kill the carpets that come in and prevent.
Morning, everybody. Tony Suprum from Lake Parsippany. I've been involved with the fishing club in Lake Parsippany for like 40 years. 30 of those years I've been wanting to make point people for angling. And I love to see multiple people, kids, young at heart people, little kids come out, enjoy fishing. But talking about fish stocking, what does that say to anybody? You go out and buy some fish, somebody comes in, throws them in the lake, great, we're good. Well, I want it to be more than that. And at Lake Parsippany, we've done that, and we've made an event out of it. But what do you have to do to get to that point? You got to find a reputable hatchery. In New Jersey, we don't have many choices. And we got maybe one main one in Asbury, New Jersey, and that's about it. Also, so what do you want to see in the hatchery? You want them to be certified disease-free, how long they've been in business, who is the owner, will they deliver the trout to you, or you have to go get them, or not just try the other fish, or, either or. And the thing I like, will they offer to give you a tour of their hatchery? If you've never been on one, it's pretty interesting. I've been to the musky trout hatchery several times. Vern is a good man. He would show you around. You walk underneath and see his where he grows, where they breed the fish. When they're 1 inch, 2 inches. Then he's got several troughs outside where you can go see a bunch of big trout, golden trout, all kind of different species of trout. Then on the outside also, he's got channel catfish, so you can just see everything how it works. So, what a hatchery is this hatchery just going to be a company you pay money to? They bring your fish, throw them in, you're done. I want somebody who's going to be more of a strategic partner and a friend to the lake. To your lake, my lake, right? So they'll care a little bit more. They want to see those fish do well in there. They'll answer any question you have. And it's been really good over the years. Like we've used musky trout for probably over 40 years. And, I feel like they're friends and a partner. All right, so we are speaking here, and most of our lakes are well established, eutrophic, good lakes. So what do we want to stock in our lake? Mostly trout are the main fish that have to be restocked the most. And then also, you're going to stock them in the spring. So it's kind of the first thing you're going to see, first kind of fish you're going to see stocked. Typically they're stocked the end of March. And instead of just stocking it, it's just where it comes in, make an event out of it, right? Somebody here stocking the members of your lake, right? It's not something that they could feel. Certainly can't taste it. And what could they see? Maybe they see the truck coming in and the fish are going down the chute. Maybe they put some in the net, throw it in, but that's it. It's not very exciting. So how do we make the members feel more part of this? Okay. Have an event, have donuts, coffee, hot chocolate. Most importantly, get the kids involved, right? Get the kids involved, parents will bring them there. Let those kids stock some of the trout. So we're just talking trout here. For many years, we just had adults coming to our event, but still you stood there and you watched the hatchery workers take out a scoop of fish, maybe put it in a bucket, a couple guys standing in the water, take the bucket, dump it in, or take the net. The kids, they're sitting there, oh, that's a big fish, but they're done. They didn't get to touch it, didn't get involved. So about 12 years ago, I said, we got to get these kids involved, right? Because also, who's going to do this 15, 20 years from now? Right? Kids are inside. Outside is a scary place to them. So about 12 years ago, they were going to get these kids involved to come down. So I got a 100-quart cooler, brought it down to where we stock it, where we stock the fish. Little trout nets that are about this big. So we're going to have these kids come down, scoop a trout out, put them in. Well, we started that 12 years ago. It's been one of the biggest events now down at Lake Parsippany. This time of year, to lend yourself, maybe get a little more people to come out, and the kids, right? Been cooped up in the house all winter. Man, it's March. Get that feeling in nice spring days. We got something to do. Come on down to the lake. But the kids make the whole thing. You watch these kids that come over to the cooler like this, pushing each other out of the way so they can see, grabbing the nets, fighting for the nets. So this is what we need to do, right? Stocking is boring, right? What do you got to do to get the members out to feel involved, to be a part of it? Come out, and once they start coming and see it, they will return. Even though we couldn't do it for 2 years with COVID, and 1 year we couldn't do it at all. The second year, I didn't want to have the kids come down and get sick, take that chance, because that would kill me if I found that kids got sick from doing this. But all right, so we decided we're going to stock trout. All right, so we're going to get 500 with this thing. Well, is that it? So we call trout muskie. Hey, we're going to get 500 trout. They pull up, maybe we get the kids there, scoop them out, put them in, adults. No, we got to get a permit from the state. All right, to get this permit, you got to fill out information. Like for me, since I was in the fishing club, I put my name to it on behalf of the Lake Parsippany Fishing Club. You just don't need to put the address of your lake, like one, maybe of your clubhouse. Use that, as long as they have an address to base it off of. You also got to put your county, township, all the kind of information you would expect. But then they want to know what type of fish are you stocking. And it's not just enough just to say, I'm putting in trout. They want to know brown trout, rainbow trout, brook trout, or maybe the permits for stocking some sort of catfish, channel catfish, bullheads. Because if you just say catfish or trout, they're going to return your permit to you to fix it. And until you have that permit, you can't put a single fish in any water in New Jersey. Because the state owns the water, they want to know what's going in it. It's not a bad process though, but for when trout season is coming, you want to do it, say in February, because it will take you 3 weeks to a month to get it back. It's $2. And I don't know why they don't have it online. I think it's a little silly. You got to print it out. You could fill out through Adobe, sign it, stuff like that, but you still got to print it out, put it in an envelope, mail them in, wait for it to come back. They got to automate it, but still, you need it. The day they come and do the stocking, you need to have that permit near you, at least, in case the state comes by and checks it. So, a lot of stuff just to stock fish, right, where the members would never imagine that's what it was. So, right, now we get to the fun part. We're going to get the kids down. We're going to get the adults bringing them. We tell the adults, bring your kids. We got hot chocolate. We got coffee. We got donuts. Yeah, we're going to fill them full of fresh air and sugar, and you get to take them home. But there's nothing like seeing these kids do it. And so this is what you got to do to keep people interested, right? People don't get interested in angling, being concerned about what fish are going in there, or feel like they're a part of it. You're not going to be able to stock fish because nobody's going to want it. So you got to do something to keep it going. And I mean, you can just put the fish in, but nobody gets excited over that. So, and my hope would be, maybe you get 20 kids come down. Let's hope one will take over the stocking in 15, 20 years. Because how many kids do you see now out fishing, looking at the lake, doing something down by the lake? We need somebody 20 years to take over for what we're doing. So, I don't, you can pull some of those up, Sebastian.
I can't put it on there, but it's on the live stream.
Oh, okay, so, let's see if I can, it's gonna be too hard for the people in the back, but, so, in Lake Parsippany, we've been doing an event like I'm speaking to for, I don't even know how many years, 30, maybe more, and I guess again, it's a little tough to see, but I brought some older ones to newer ones.
Maybe.
All right. Let's see if we can get it. But yeah, we've been doing these events. We realized a long time ago we need to get people involved with it. And I said it this time of year lends itself, in March, to make people a little more excited, because it's also, some people they feel like this is the kickoff of spring, like it's a sign of things to come.
Tony?
Yes.
Hi, Christine, Lake South Home.
Hi.
Thank you for this. We just restocked with tiger trout. We had to contact the DEP because we had a fisher meeting, angler meeting, and a lot of different opinions. So they told us what we're allowed because we have some wetlands in the downstream.
Yep.
But we had been having the kids, but what we found out is that all of a sudden, now that the fish are restocked, all the fishermen turn out later on. How do you prevent the greediness? Or do you set a rule saying don't fish for 24 hours or something? What do you do?
After we stock it, we've done in the past that the lake was going to be closed to fishing from that Saturday after the trout are in until the next Saturday, which would typically be opening day of trout season in New Jersey. So that would be 8 a.m. on the following Saturday. But you shouldn't have to do that technically, because you're not allowed to possess a trout in most places throughout the state for that week, right? Even though we're private, it's the state's water. We have to follow their regulations. We can make them tougher, but we can't weaken them. So yeah, I go, a couple of us go around, we hang up signs, hey, no, before the stock, trout are being stocked Saturday, 9 o'clock. No fishing from 9 a.m. Saturday, April 1st, until 8 a.m. Saturday, April 8th. And for the most part, it's been all right. We've had a couple people over the years, but really it's been good. And I've not really heard of anybody who's caught a whole bunch of trout during that week and took them home. One or two people, oh, sorry, I didn't know. What are you going to do? But yeah, so here's an example just of,
I'll start with slide one.
yeah. So I did the first picture there on the left with the guy with the bandana. That's from 2004. Right? And it was well before this. So I tell you, it's like a little bit of history, just so you can see when people come to this type of thing, get excited about it, they want to come back. So the first one, 2004, and it goes on. You see all the people, like on the right there, just look at the people standing there, how cold it is. They still came out. Right? So it's become a great event. Right? There's just some more. Again, in the picture on the left, how cold it is, but they still come. It's great. Well, we're going to get to the really good pictures here now. There we go. The kids. There's the 100-quart cooler, little trout nets. They come over, put one in the net. One of us stands there, that's me, standing there, helping just to turn the net over. And the smiles you see. fantastic. They come down, even joke around a little bit, but it's great. How many events nowadays do you see outside of, like baseball or soccer, where kids come out to it? This is more showing the kids looking. That's like, you can get a good picture of kind of what we do. See the blue cooler there? That's a 100-quart cooler. As soon as this stock truck pulls up, first thing we'll do is get like 2 nets from Vern or his son and put them in there. But what, besides the kids enjoying it, what does it do to it? They're not like running in between the people stocking them, getting in their way. They got their own part of it. They feel like they're doing it, so they're all concentrated there. We typically will do maybe 3 or 4 netfuls for the kids. It's about, maybe 15, 20 minutes they get to do it, but it's like perfect. They're done because, that's about all they can get from their interest. And so you get the kids involved. They look forward to come to the stocking. When they like it, when they say, hey, we're going to do this again next year? And I said, as long as you come back. So these are 2 kids who have been to the stockings. Their parents are involved. We get them involved. This is what happens. The kid on the right, he's 7. That's a 6-pound trout. He's fishing with his father, grandfather. Reeled it in himself. They wanted to help him. He's like, no, go away. I'm reeling it in myself. That was great. The girl on the left, she's been fishing with her dad and grandfather down the lake probably since she was 3. I think she's 16 or 17 now. Get them involved, they keep coming back. I love it. But we need to keep our waters, the ecosystem, perfect. We need to do electroshock studies to know, do we have fish in the lake that are, say largemouth bass, do we got too many, or 12 inches, 15 inches? Now, we need to study, and I think that's a very overlooked part of the ecosystem. It's an electroshock fish study. If you remember 2015, sorry, go ahead.
Explain that, electroshock study?
Yeah, I'll give it a little bit, and Chris can really tell you the science side of it.
Can I, you done with that photo? If you take that, plug that back in here.
Sure.
Tony can keep going, I'll just show you. While he's talking, you'll...
So, I'll just give you the basis of how you can do it. So, you might be in a boat, like a flat bottom boat, and they'll have like a rod sticking out the end with this disc on the end, wire, or like chains, something hanging down. Yeah, the top middle. Yeah. So you can sort of see it in this picture here. Right, you see like you got things hanging over the side here, and it's a little tough to see. But this is like a typical boat here that will be set up to do it, right? So these are the rods carrying electricity out to, some of them have a disc about this big with chains hanging down. You lower it into the water, and it puts a shock into the water and stuns the fish. Doesn't kill them. It's they float up. Then you'll grab them out of the water, measure them, length, girth. You might even take some, maybe a scale sample, a slime sample, have it analyzed. Make sure that the fish are healthy. But another thing it does, and from, maybe this is more from the angling side, is, right, largemouth bass, right, one of the most popular species to fish right now. And you're going to start seeing, is everybody talking about catching 1-pounders that are 12, 13, 14 inches? Maybe they're catching a whole bunch that are 15 inches, 2 pounds. Well, where's 3, 4-pounders? Where's the 8-inchers? Well, they can all get stunted. Right? You get too many of one species in there, especially bass, because they're vicious. Actually, scientists said if a largemouth bass can grow like a shark, it will be 10 times more vicious. Mm-hmm. I mean, you put bass in your lake also for control, for crowd control of panfish. But yeah, so they'll go around to different spots in your lake. You know, sometimes it could be a joint effort between the anglers who know the lake well to, say, the sign say with Chris, you say, okay, here the anglers say, here's some good spots. This is where we catch a lot of fish. And, you know, Chris, knowing our lakes too, he knows in Lake Brazil we got a stump field, we got riprap. Hey, that's the typical place you're going to see most fish hang out. You go over there, shock it, take, you know, some data, have it analyzed. Now you can properly manage the fishery in your lake. So, right, if you remember 2015, brutal cold winter, right? I mean, it was probably the most ice I've ever seen on Lake Parsippany. Well, Lake Parsippany and a lot of other northern lakes had a very large fish kill because of that brutal winter. I mean, Lake Parsippany, and you know, on a cold year, I've seen maybe like 6 to 8 inches of ice in the heart. I mean, we're talking about in March, by our boat ramp where we stocked the trout. I went down there trying to chop the ice. It was 12 inches right there. Like we couldn't keep up with it. We had 3 people a day going down there to try to chop it. Right, so, but when it defrosted, what did we see? Dead fish all over. Carp and white perch. And why? The oxygen wasn't enough to support the fish in an area. If we get an electric shock study, we have a better chance for that not to happen. Like my opinion is, if we were doing one of these studies even once every 5 years, it would have been half the amount of fish we lost. We had 4,400 pounds of fish that died. And we weren't the only ones to have that many. So like Parsippany is very shallow, we have to be a little more careful, but it can happen to anybody. So I think it's a very important part. And a lot of us know Chris. I would not trust anybody more than Chris and his company to do such a thing, to care for our lakes. To come in, because we have talked about this study. And he was the only person I would trust to come in and do this. He'll tell you how it is, whether you like it or not, you're going to know it. But this is a very important part of any fishery management. So we need to push to get more of these surveys. I've been pushing it for, 3 years to get one. So now Chris, he'll talk more to the science side of it. When it comes to the science side, I wouldn't know what to tell you. Outside of Giardia, that's the only science side thing I need. I know. All right, thank you, everybody. Here's Chris.
Tony, I have a question.
Got a question.
The fellows at our lake, Lake Lenape, they put, I just have to ask this, they put Christmas trees in the lake.
Sure.
Oh, okay. So that's not weird? Okay.
No, it's very good.
So it is okay.
Christmas trees create structure, especially if you have a lake that's, kind of like a bowl shape. A lot of lakes are bowl shaped, right? Maybe you got a boulder here, a stump there, but that's it. There's no place for the young of the year to hide, or even the big fish to get something to eat. So they come over there because they know little fish are there, and Christmas trees last a little longer because they're pine.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is there?
We tried to do the event like you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know what hatchery it is or how it is, but they would only come during the week, like 10 or 11 o'clock.
Yeah, that would be hard to do. Like, I think because we've been using the trout muskie hatchery, or muskie trout for so long, that we've been having pretty much the same, like 1 week before New Jersey's opening day, and we are between 9 and 10 o'clock. And the way it's been this, and maybe because we've been, working with them so long, that they come at that time. But when you do also decide, if you decide to go to an event like this and bring the kids in, expect some flack for doing it.
There's flack for everything.
Yeah, I went through it, and even the hatchery questioned me on doing what I did with the kids. And so I told everybody, if anytime one of these, a trout dies because the kid's stocking it, I will personally go and buy them, go down to Asbury, pick them up, bring them back to the lake. Well, 12 years I've never had to buy one. But you can work with them, even work, if you buy them from them, tell them you want to do something similar to Lake Parsippany, he'll know.
I have a question.
Sure.
So we stock fathead minnows twice a year.
Right.
Do you need permits to do that as well?
Yes.
I don't know the word.
Any fish that's going into New Jersey water, you're supposed to get a permit for.
Okay.
But again, are they going to be the one you do it? Yes.
$2 permit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Thank you,
I don't have much to add. I just sent these photos over for Tony just in case he needed. This was a fish. This was not a survey, but a collection. Okay, but it's the same equipment, like Tony said. There's a shocking boat here where you send electrical charge through the water and the fish come up and we gather them and then we place them into holding tanks and then we move over.
Well, there we go.
Inside of the truck, the fish are placed in there. Aeration is provided to them while they're holding there, and then we bring them to another location. Or if it's not a relocation and it's a survey, you're going to grab numbers, length, whatever data that you're trying to look at, and it can go to exponentially to doing, like you said, gut analysis and things like that. Typically, that's not the case for lake associations. It's really an inventory, so you get a general idea or a better idea of how to manage your fisheries instead of arbitrarily just a lot of lake associations go every year, they just throw in this slot, this size of fish across the board and they go along it. Yes.
This is also how they check for invasive species.
Correct.
You get these people who have fish tanks and they don't want to kill their fish, so they take them and dump them in the water, and then you have all these other kinds of fish growing in your lakes and stuff.
Yeah.
So
we have a lot of koi in Lake Parsippany.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of knowledge from fishermen, just those who spend time on the water, on their water bodies. Okay, they know what they're catching, they know what they're seeing. This gives the scientific and the numbers of what's really in there. And then it just gives the association a better idea of how to manage and travel down the road of stocking and doing things like that. And the bottom line, like Tony said, is from a generational standpoint, we're seeing less people out on the water, like young people out on the water. It's a great idea to bring people into understanding their lake system, okay, understanding where they live. You know, that's a technical term. Lake system, no. Learn that you got a lake in your backyard and how enjoyable it is, and fish it and sail it and do whatever you want to do with it, but bring them outside and get them involved. All right, one more question.
So this year we were talking about doing an electroshock survey, but one of our biggest fishermen just decided to collect data on what he was catching. And so I guess I have two questions. How much more effective, or what are the pros and cons of just keeping your own fisherman's data versus an electroshock survey, and how much does it cost?
Well, shocking takes thousands of dollars to do, okay? Keeping up what they call a creel report, or keeping numbers of your fish, that's a good thing. I mean, that is, there's nothing wrong with that. This is just getting a little bit more dynamic, and you're able to capture the larger fish all the way down to the smaller fish in that zone of influence when you're sending electrodes in there. So you're getting more, that you're getting the bait fish and you're getting the smaller fish and you're getting numbers. Where a creel report is, you're catching bass and you might in springtime catch a carp or some perch. Here you're getting a vast amount of fish. You're not capturing them all. You're getting a snapshot of history at that time, but you're getting a whole lot more information from a fisheries study than you are just creel reports. But that being said, it's okay to keep, and it's a good thing to keep doing that, to have fishermen understand what they're in there, because the typical language, like Tony said, is they're all well, we're only catching 8 to 10s. We're only catching 10-inch fish because the management, the fisheries are getting stressed in that lake system and they're getting stunted. So.
Yeah, we actually, our big fisherman has been pulling out pickerel. He said we were getting too many big pickerel eating our bass.
And that's a subjective answer. You know, he's making that choice. The real choice is say, oh, how many pickerel do we have per acre? And there's calculations to be done on this. This is more scientific. But again, I don't want to say keeping those reports are not a good thing to do. But this type of service is really on the spectrum of lake management. It runs down the bottom of the tier because we all know there's fish in there, and then there's only X amount of dollars to be spent. So, you know, from a budgetary standpoint on the lake associations, where does that fish study fall in terms of insurance, beach repair, all that kind of stuff? Unfortunately, they're few and far between, but they're important to do if you really, you know, depends on how aggressive you want to get with your fisheries.
And how often would you do them?
That's what I was going to say.
Typically, like a fisheries survey will be done every 5 years if you're on a regime. Okay, most 99% of the people do it once, and then they gather that information and they're able, because they just can't afford that aspect, because it'll take a period of time for whatever comes of it. The information says, oh, we have too many 8 to 10-inch fish. You're going to fish those out possibly. So then it takes a period of time to see that generational shift change. So 5 to 10 years down the road, then you'll start to see that change go around. And it also may be a typical recommendation to create habitat, Christmas trees, plastic structures. There's other ways to do it, but to let those bait fish kind of, those big fish like to eat, So, all right. Okay, one more.
So we're looking to do one of these shark studies, but specifically for the carp. Our fishermen, this is the unscientific. Yesterday we get like 10,000 plus carp, and obviously they're a problem. But they also tell us that the carp lay on the bottom never stop moving, and they actually push phosphorus and all the nutrients to the top. Is that true?
That is definitely true. Carp definitely play a role in being able to stir up the bottom of a lake. A lot of small ponds, smaller water bodies.
This is on our big lake.
I know. I was going to kind of lead to that. So, like a lot of times, you'll see that the carp population tend to keep smaller ponds more turbid. Okay, more dirty looking, and they're just slow. They're big. Some of them are getting as big as my hip down, 3 feet, and they slowly move around and they just constantly stir up the sediment. And in New Jersey, or depending on where you are, if you have clay as a base, that clay particulates can stay suspended. I mean, clay is an unknown. There's no way to say, if I dug a hole, clay is going to drop out of the system in a week. It could be months before even you see any change in the water clarity. So those fish do move the bottom a lot. But when you get into a bigger system, like the main lake at Hanlon, you don't really see that turbidity because there's so much volume of water. You see less of it. But they do. There's no doubt they can play a role in moving the bottom sediment.
But I see catfish go near the carp nest. And I see catfish and carp that are like 3 feet long, just body slamming each other.
Yeah, they'll do that, and they're also during a spawn in the springtime. You'll see big carp turning, and they're part of the ecosystem. Nothing wrong with them. Like, too much of anything. Too much milk is not good for you. Too much of one. It's like red wine.
Like in 2015 when I said that bad freeze, right? We had 4,400 pounds of fish we took out. 3,500 of it were carp. And right now, it's been about the best carp fishing it has in Lake Parsippany. And so, like, those dying almost didn't affect carp fishing. We have a couple guys who do nothing but carp fish down there, and they'll catch 18, 20 pounders like, kids catch a bluegill.
Do you remove them from the lake? Do you remove them?
we removed some. We need to do more, and it was something that we talked more about this year. But we only want specific people right now to do it. People who are more experienced anglers and know what we're looking to do. We even did that a little bit with bass. Lake Parsippany, we had some contests, like about 5 or so for the year. In the contest this year, we're going to keep a few that are like, 13 inches and keep a few that are like, 16 inches and see what happens. I heard there was just a few kept, so we didn't maybe put the word out quite enough, but we only want it done during the contest and mostly fishing club members who are, more involved in just coming down, once or twice a year.
I'd like to say thank you very much for your time.
Again, I want to thank both Chris and Tony for their time this morning. All right, so now we're just going to do a couple of housekeeping things. I know we're running a little behind this morning, but I know the topics were well received based on the number of questions that were given back. First thing, I just want to recognize a couple people for making some great strides this year for getting cola out a little bit more than just in this room. Tom from Cupsall Lake and Sebastian from Lake Parsippany have been working very heavily this year in getting us out. We have a Facebook page and we also have an updated website, and Tom is very, very diligent about getting new information on that website. He reminds us at least twice a month to get information. So if there's stuff that you feel would be beneficial to everybody in COLA, please feel free to send that in. We do have on our website several email addresses that you can send to any one of them, and we will get it to Tom, and we'll get it posted both on Facebook and on our website. So at this point, I want to turn the microphone over to Eileen Bourne. She's going to talk about the elections and some legal matters.
Okay, so as far as the elections, the entire slate of nominees were elected unanimously, so thank you, board members, for agreeing to serve for another year. In terms of legal, I only have one announcement, which is the NJDEP revolving fund for dams and inland water projects. It was introduced yesterday for the appropriations bill. So if your lake made an application this year for dam funds, and I know at least a couple of the lakes here did do that, that's now before both houses. So I'm going to send out an email. Basically, you can contact your local representatives and urge them to pass that in this legislative session so those monies can be released to people. For those of you who are not familiar with the revolving fund, it really has been focused on dams for the many years that it's been available. But in the last 2 rounds of funding, there is money left on the table. So I know at least of one lake that got a $5 million dredging loan for that. So the revolving fund is for dams and inland water projects, and it was never really available for the inland water projects because the dams are a safety hazard. So that money is now available. So if your lake is considering a dredging project, we always announce the next round of funding, which should be within the next few months. That's something to consider. I'm also going to do Kathy McHugh's report. She's the treasurer. She gave me a list. There are 59 paid member lakes, and there's $15,641.81 in the checking account. Anyone who's listened to this report, we always have $15,000 in the checking account. There's a budget, of about $6,000 every year. It goes to pay for directors and officers' liability insurance, the filing of the tax returns, this lunch 4 times or breakfast 4 times a year, We're a NOMS affiliate, so the membership dues for NOMS. But one of the things that we're going to ask as a board, the board meets in January and has a planning session, and one of the things we're going to be asking in advance of that planning session from the members are, what else would you like to see from NJ COLA? So, even today, Lynn mentioned board member training, new board member training. That could be something NJ COLA could offer when they have their elections every year for people who have never served on a board and don't know what the parameters are for that. Someone else mentioned, being able to connect with other people on the website. So we do have the Facebook page now, but we're going to ask people this year when we send out the dues notice whether their information can be published on the website, and look into a way that the member lakes can communicate directly with each other if there's a particular question about a vendor or an issue a lake is facing and would like to hear from the other lakes. These meetings are a great time to have those, but something online would obviously reach out to a lot more people. And that's it. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Tom?
Tom?
Your turn.
She talks to that.
For the revolving fund, is that just for public lakes or is that?
It's actually, I think it could be public lakes too. It's for private. It's right. So it's the individual dam owners are actually eligible, but they're mostly awarded to private lake associations. But municipalities can also apply if they own the lake themselves. Most lakes are privately owned, so it is geared for private associations.
I'm Tom Conway, I oversee the social media and website. Just real quick, I know we're running late, but we are improving our live stream. So today was the first time we actually had the presentation featured and the speaker small, whereas last time it was all on one screen. The website is going to go under some changes, hopefully this winter as time allows. We're all busy with our lakes in the summer, so it sort of gets paused during then. Keep the feedback coming. You can use the contact me on the page or any of the email addresses. I'd love more feedback. We don't get enough, so it would be great to set direction on that. That's it for me.
Okay, cool. Okay, so as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, this is our last meeting with everybody in the room and hopefully on the live stream for 2023. We're looking at a meeting in March, potentially at Cupstall Lake. We're looking at the topic of dealing with the Canada geese issue. So we know that that's a hot topic. We've found that. So we're looking at the meeting in March, simply because the timing on that would be just before the geese breeding season begins. And you'll hear more about that either by email on the website or on the Facebook page. I do want to thank everybody, all of the board members, for all the time that they do put into the lake, and I especially want to thank all the members for coming. As Tom said, we really enjoy the feedback. It obviously will make the meetings a lot more dynamic if you guys give us some suggestions on things. Otherwise, it'll be like, oh, it's the same guy again, the same guy. So, but thank you all very much, and I hope you all have a really great holiday season as it comes up. And hopefully we'll see many of you in the spring again. And if there's any questions at any time, please feel free to reach out. We do have multiple email addresses now that you can get a hold of basically anybody on the board now. So thank you all for coming and have a great afternoon.